All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Thursday edition of the Rodcast. And yes, NFL season kicks off tonight. We'll get into it and preview the very first matchup. And it is a spectacular star-studded one. So we'll get into that early and often here on the show. Although, of course, we'll get into Texas versus Michigan. That, of course, is a big topic of conversation here in our neck of the woods. Longhorns with a big game going on the road to face the Michigan Wolverines in the Big House. So we'll preview that matchup too. We'll also get into some of the other NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll talk a little Texans. We'll talk a little Cowboys on the show. There is a conversation I want to have about some football logic, if you will. We'll get into that. I think it actually can be applied to the Texas-Michigan game. We'll get into that coming up. We got Rod's rant coming up a little bit later on in the show. We will hear from actually, it's an interesting conversation that we'll get into. Actually, hear from Michael Parsons, and I think he reveals how, at least gives us a sneak peek as to how Mike Zimmer is going to use him. And I don't know if he was supposed to reveal this or what, but he does give us a little sneak peek. So we'll hear from Michael Parsons. We'll also get into some other topics, your usual favorites. Who said that, off the record, what the facts, what the stats. We'll also get into the topic for the big fat poll today. That's always an interesting conversation starter. That and more. But before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure that he's underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. We have made it to NFL season. That begins tonight. Honest. I'm very excited for that. But I was thinking about something. I saw something last night, and I realized it was one part of the Texas game we did not discuss. We didn't discuss Texcalibur at all. The turnover sword.
Yes.
We have not discussed this.
I think we mentioned it. I think we mentioned I don't know turnover sword.
I think we may have mentioned it.
Dive into it.
We did not.
Johnny Nansen, I think I mentioned that Johnny Nansen brought it from Arizona. It's a Johnny Nansen thing. It's a Johnny Nansen influence. I think we brought it up, but I don't know if you're right. We didn't.
Have you given your thoughts on? Say, I've gotten different feedback on it so far, on people that are people that think like, okay, cool, we wanted to get some turnover thing, and so we got some turnover thing, then
I don't mind it.
I don't mind it.
Some people dislike it.
Yes, I think I'm not a huge fan of it.
You're not a hand. I mean, like I said, you're running out of ideas at this point. Like it's like the dunk contest. I don't even know what they got. The turnover chain. They got the turnover. I think they had a turnover. Oh, what was that, man? It was something weird, like a hammer. They got turnover axes. I mean, they got turnover everything. A chainsaw. I think I saw it one time.
Yeah, see, that's it.
Turnover. Because there's a lot of different turnover things, man.
And the reality is, if the kids like it, if the players want to use it, awesome.
You're right.
If the players want it, that's all that matters, because you want them to have fun out there and go out there and try and get the turnovers. But yeah, you're watching, you're like, this doesn't look right. Something about this doesn't look right. I get it. But
yeah, Oregon State had a turnover chainsaw. You know what I mean? I'm with you. I don't know where they get the inspiration. I agree with you. It is very, I don't know. It just seemed very obtuse just to throw a sword out there. But I'm with you. I don't know. Hey, as long as they got the turnovers, I don't really care.
Exactly.
That is probably about it. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily cool or anything. Like I don't think it's like, man, that's so cool.
When you see it, you're not like, oh, there comes Texcalibur. You're more like, oh, it's a sword again.
Hold up, did you name it or did they name it?
They named it. I didn't name it that.
I thought you were naming it. No. I know it's a turnover sword. I didn't know it had a name. I thought you were like,
that's what I've heard it referred to.
I thought you were being funny. I thought you were doing your bit.
That is what I
thought that was your shtick.
That is what I've heard it referred to as.
Okay.
Texcalibur.
Okay. I want to know if the player that's them or did somebody in the media start that, or
that is only what I've heard it referred to as. This is Texcalibur. So
all right, I haven't heard the Texcalibur thing. That's new. That to me is not. I did not hear that. So I would like the players to know if that's their reference to the turnover sword.
If somebody actually had an Excalibur reference and they were like, no, it works perfectly.
Something tells me this generation of players, I don't know if that's what they're into. So I don't know. Maybe that's maybe Johnny Nansen already had it named when he brought it there. So maybe the guys who came from Arizona can tell us. So maybe we need to ask them.
Well, no,
Like
but it
the
has to
big
be a
guys.
different name because it wouldn't be Texcalibur in Arizona.
That's what I'm saying. They got. I don't know if it had a name when it was
Oh yeah, then
there. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
if it's something like now, he's like, oh no, it always has a name. It's just a cool
okay,
name
yeah.
or
I don't know.
whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know we hadn't gone into because I hadn't heard the word Texcalibur yet on the show.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had no idea Texcalibur was a thing. Yeah, so there you go. I knew the turnover sword. Like I said, I think I brought it up, but to me, I think every program has something like that.
They do all
like a
have
turnover
something.
bat or a
Yeah.
turnover something. I'm like, okay, yeah. They always have something like that. So I figured, yeah, it wasn't a
Now
big deal. And,
we
and they're
also
all kind of weird. They're all kind of weird
and,
and
and I don't know
yeah.
this from last year from Arizona, but do you reset the number of balls on it every game, or is that a season long? You just keep sticking
I think you
new.
definitely reset it every game. You have to, right? Because
I'd be
you
thinking,
expect to get
that'd
you
be
expect to
much
get
cooler to get,
more
yeah, to like
turnovers.
completely fill up the sword. Seems much nicer.
Yeah, but then what if I end up with like 20, 30
Get another
turnovers?
sword.
You bring it, then then it's not as significant. You got to be the one sword. You got multiple swords. So I think you just take it off
We'll
every
see.
time.
We'll
And,
see at Michigan if
yeah,
it
you're
gets
right. I don't know.
reset.
That's new.
If they
Yeah.
reset it, or if they just let it go all season long. I mean, because the balls they're deflated once they get on there, so they're a little
Yeah,
bit
they deflate
smaller.
them and
Yeah.
then they shrink them down. But still, that's still a lot of balls on there. I mean, last year, what did Texas have? Like 24 some turnovers, something like that.
I don't know.
24
It's a big
takeaways.
sword.
That's a lot of swords. I'm saying that's a lot of takeaways to put on there. I think what I mean. Then it's not. You can't even move it around. It is. Well, I don't know. But you're right. I did not know it had a name. I knew. I said. I think I had made like one reference to it, but I didn't think that much of it because I figured, oh, it's a new little, little bit that they're doing, and every school has like a thing
Yeah.
like that. Well, most schools. I don't know if every school, but a lot of the programs have something like that, and you'll see it on the sideline. And I think they just ran out of ideas. Turnover chain, turnover chainsaw, whatever it is. All right, there you go. Good point. I didn't know Texcalibur. I learned something new today.
I tell you, let me introduce you to my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod, father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Thank you for the intro. Yeah, I did not know it had a name, so I guess we'll refer to it as. I guess somebody got to ask the players about it. Though. I need to know if that's a media thing or if that's a actual player reference. If it's the players, we refer to it as Texcalibur. Yeah. All right, there you go. So a little breakdown on the turn. Hopefully they take it on the road, but hopefully they get a couple of turnovers versus Michigan. That would help. If they can get a couple of takeaways.
It would be very nice. Yeah.
Michigan.
Well, we want to see Texcalibur in Michigan. We want to see.
You would like to see.
We got to see if it resets or not. So we got to see.
So they definitely have dull Texcalibur, right? Texcalibur is very dull. Which is, well, it can't be that dull because they
shove the ball down. Yeah.
Shove balls on it, so it's got to be somewhat sharp. It can't be that sharp though, because you're wielding a sword around on the sideline.
Or do they just get like they have already deflated balls with holes in them? They just slide them on.
That may be that probably is safer. That's probably what it is. There's no way there's any part of that sword that's sharp. You know what I mean? Just in case somebody.
I wouldn't have a sharp sword out there personally, but
sharp sword. There's no way. So you're right. It's got to be dulled around. Like it's just there's no way it's sharp edges at all on Texcalibur. Yeah, they don't know. Now you got me thinking about the damn sword in depth about how the safety of it on the sideline, who stores the sword, like where is the sword? Do they pay homage to the sword before they go out there, like that kind of thing? Does somebody walk out on the field with the sword? Did somebody walk out in the field with it, or was it with the equipment staff?
I mean,
like,
it's got to
come out with it.
Got to be equipment staff, right?
No, I'm just saying, like a player may think it's cool to walk out with the sword.
It's a big
like
sword,
it's on Game of Thrones or something.
It's a big sword.
I don't know. It is a big sword. That's what I'm saying. It's like the flag. You come out with the big sword. I don't know. Maybe it's cool. I don't know how much attention the players are paying to it. So now I'm curious because you have sparked my curiosity, sir. I appreciate that. All right. He also does that with the topic for the big fat poll today, which we'll have that when we get into the last segment of the 6 o'clock. Of course, we'll talk lots of NFL. You got the Ravens and the Chiefs matchup tonight. Very compelling for a number of different reasons. So we'll dive into that matchup too and talk about it. And we'll start to dabble into previewing some of the weekend's matchups in the NFL. Cowboys and the Texans. We'll dive into that too. But before we do any of that, let's get educated, let's get informed, and let's get updated with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros were never able to get out of the gates against the Reds last night, allowing 9 runs in the first inning and losing 12-5. The Astros will try to forget about the bad loss as they finish the series today, sending Hunter Brown to the mound. The Rangers won their series with the Yankees with a 10-6 win yesterday. Wyatt Langford had another big night with 3 hits, 3 runs, and 2 RBIs, while also making above-the-wall catch, robbing a home run to end the game in the 9th. Nathan Eovaldi pitched 7 innings, allowing 2 runs and striking out 6 in the game, picking up his 11th win of the season. And the Rangers now begin a 4-game series with the Angels, with Cody Bradford getting the start tonight. And in the NFL, the Ravens and Chiefs kick off the NFL season tonight on NBC. The rematch of the AFC title game from last season brings the debut of Derrick Henry on the Ravens and Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs as the two teams battle for early control of the AFC. And that is your Horn headlines.
Yeah, I mean, that is thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. That's one of the really compelling storylines. The Chiefs' new look offense, right?
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes was able to lead the Chiefs to another Super Bowl win, and he had one of his worst years. As some people would argue, it was his worst year as a starter. He threw a career-high 14 interceptions. Now, his receiving core led the NFL in drops, too. I think like 44 drops, so that's out there, too. But he threw a career-high 14 interceptions, mostly because receivers couldn't get open, couldn't create separation. Career lows in touchdown rate, yards per pass attempt, yards per completion, and passing yards per game. Averaging a career low, if you go look at it, if you're a fantasy person, a career low 15.5 passing points per game last season. I mean, and it was, like I said, mostly it was about the receiving core that couldn't create separation, couldn't catch the football consistently. And how about this? On throws, 10 yards or further down the field. Because remember, we talked about how that offense had become a dink and dunk offense. The verticality was gone. There was no verticality in the Kansas City offense. It makes it amazing how they were able to win the Super Bowl. They actually did a lot of it with defense. This was a Steve Spagnuolo year. I mean, that was arguably the best defense in the league by the end of the year, including the playoffs. But on throws 10 yards or more down the field, Patrick Mahomes was 28th in NFL rating on those passes. Completed 45, basically 46% of those passes with 2 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. That was no verticality in offense. They brought it back. This is a scary thing. They won a Super Bowl like that. How do you win the Super Bowl? I remember during the season, I said, there's no way they're going to win the Super Bowl again, guys. I said, that with a receiving core that bad. You can't win a Super Bowl with a receiving core that inept, that dysfunctional. And yeah, I changed my tune by the end of the season. And, because you don't bet against Mahomes. But now the improvement and the upgrade, Patrick, you got now a top 10 receiving core overall. When you look at Rashee Rice, we know Xavier Worthy a little bit better than most, so we probably are higher on him maybe than everybody else, but still, fastest man in the history of the NFL Combine. Marquise Brown's not going to be totally healthy, but I think it's a massive upgrade over what they had last season.
Yeah, no, and they've said Marquise Brown is making a expedited recovery. They're saying he's recovering extremely well, so he's ahead of schedule actually to come back and get on the field. But yeah, for week 1, Rashee Rice is still out there. I know people are thinking he was going to be suspended. His court case isn't until December, so if he is suspended, would likely be later in the season. But most stuff you're hearing from the NFL themselves is saying that they don't expect him to be suspended this season until all of due process of legal processes, and then they will make the decision after that. So he probably will get to play most of the season, if not all of it. So you have him that is going to take the number 1s away from Xavier Worthy, most likely. And if you put Xavier Worthy in 1-on-1,
oh man, yeah, you're right. I hope they don't put their number 2 on Xavier Worthy and expect him to be able to lock down Xavier Worthy. That's not.
And that, I mean, I do. I kind of do when we're not playing him because it'd be funny to watch. But I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I hope D'Amico doesn't do that.
Ooh, they better give, as long as they better give him some help over the top or something like that. Or and that's exactly what the Chiefs are counting on. I think they're going to have Xavier Worthy based on what we saw in the preseason, running a lot of deep routes and essentially ask the defense to pick their poison.
Yeah,
because Travis Kelce is going to be working that short to intermediate area underneath. You have a Rashee Rice as kind of their number one wide receiver, like the number one go-to guy.
Yeah.
They'll kind of feature in the passing game and run the passing game through. And then you'll have the choice of Xavier Worthy on the side. Like, you're going to let him one-on-one. And if you don't put a safety over the top, all right, we'll take it. We're going to take it. If you put a safety over the top, well, good luck defending Travis Kelce in the short to intermediate, or what you're going to do with Rashee Rice in one-on-one.
Yep.
It's quite the conundrum.
And I mean, and now we're going to see if that running game is even better, because Pacheco, we know, is stepping up and was doing better as the season went on. And then you add in
watch out for that Carson Steele.
What's his name? Crocky?
Is it Carson Steele?
It's Carson Steele, but it was nicknamed because he
you're right. Yeah, you're right, because of the crocodile. Yes,
yes.
He owns great point. Yes, you're right. Owns a crocodile. You're right. No doubt. You're right about that. I forgot that. Yeah, no right. He's legit, man. I'm telling you. He's at. I don't know if you'll see him in this game, but I don't know. I think he's their number 2 now. I think he has surpassed Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I think he has too. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we know he just has never gotten close to what they wanted him to be.
We all thought it would work out. It seemed like it would, and he was compatible with everything they're doing. It just didn't work out.
Until he fumbled the ball too many times. And I mean, nothing will find you on the bench quicker than turnovers.
Damn right.
And so man. that if we don't trust you with the ball, we're going to give it to Carson Steele and see what he can do with it. I see if that running game improves a little bit this season, which if you're pushing guys back with Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, and especially when Hollywood Brown comes back, and you push them back further, you push those safeties back, you push everybody back a little bit because you're throwing it downfield again.
Yeah, what do you stack the box versus Kansas City?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody does that. That's just stupid. But you're right. It opens up run lane.
So I mean, it opens up a little bit. They'll be an interesting team to watch. And on the other side, Derrick Henry in that offense, are you going to stack the box against Lamar Jackson and then try and put a spy over the top on him and stack the box? And
well, see, that's the beautiful thing about, and that's why I like the storyline here, because we just talked about, Patrick Mahomes is so great. He was able to win the Super Bowl having his worst season as a starter and no real, deep vertical passing attack. Lamar Jackson had his best season as a passer. Like, it by far and away his best season as a passer. Anybody who's been hating on Lamar Jackson as a guy that can't throw the football, he just wasn't in a system that allowed him to be a capable and achieve at a high level as a pocket passer. When Todd Monken came in, brought in that system, by the way, I said at the time, I said, that's going to be dangerous now. You basically got Lamar Jackson in kind of an air raid-ish system. He set career highs in completion percentage, in yards per attempt, yard per pass attempt. His 12 yards per completion was his highest since his rookie season. He basically, obviously won the MVP. So it goes without saying, but as a passer, because he had already won an MVP, it was his second one. This one was as an elite passer. The first time was just as a freakish, dynamic weapon. You know what I mean? Just something we had never seen. Well, we had seen Michael Vick, but no, he hadn't done. He did it at a higher level than even Michael Vick did as a weapon at the quarterback position. Now you're starting to see him as a pocket passing weapon, and that was something people had questioned about Lamar Jackson. Now, here's the thing: in that AFC title game, this is a rematch of the AFC title game. The Ravens, speaking of him as a passer, some people believe they were overly reliant on his elite pocket passing ability. Remember, the Ravens dropped back to pass on a season high 80% of their plays in the AFC title game, and they ran just 8 times without Lamar Jackson. Even more, if you go look at it, kind of freakish. The Chiefs entered that matchup ranking 5th in the league in success rate against the pass, and they were 27th in success rate against the run. And it seemed like it was going to be a natural, all right, you know what? Let's just try to run the rock against them. And that was not the case. They decided to throw it. So you went strength on strength, and Kansas City was able to win the day. And Jackson he was 54% completion percentage. His passes, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, took 4 sacks. And the Chiefs defense last year, and I point this out, that defense arguably was the best defense in the league. That was a stingy defense last year overall. And then the Chiefs blitzed him 44% of the time in that AFC title game, and that was their second highest rate in a game the entire season. Their seasonal blitz rate was around 29%. They blitzed him like 44%. Man, they went after him. And if you go look at his Spagnuolo in his 4 games against Lamar Jackson as a defensive coordinator, Spagnuolo has blitzed on an average of 39% of the dropbacks. And his base rate is somewhere around 28%. So he likes to come after Lamar Jackson, and he's going to come after him again.
Yep.
And that's why I think the Derrick Henry factor is big, as you talked about, Patrick. And against the blitz, Lamar Jackson has not been good. And on those occasions, he's completing 52% of his passes against the blitz, 6.7 yards per attempt, and only 2 touchdowns. So that's what you got to watch. How do they handle the blitz? They should have a plan for it. They've seen it enough now. But Spags is so good at blitzing from sub packages and dimes and nickels and sitting DBs and doing all type of kind of freaky, crazy, exotic stuff. So that's what you got to watch. That's kind of one of the themes I think in this matchup that you got to look for. But that Ravens team. This is a team that should be challenging the threat of a three-peat by the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, I always throw out the 5-year window rule. And no team has won a championship with the same coach quarterback combination together for more than 5 years. So if they don't do it within that first 5 years, you got to change one of those pieces. The Ravens are outside of that 5-year window. Don't mean they can't beat the Chiefs. I can beat the Chiefs, get to the Super Bowl, and maybe not win the Super Bowl. But they would have to, essentially make history to do it. I don't know if I see this Ravens team doing that against this Chiefs team. Because this the thing about it, guys, we don't know if we've seen the best Chiefs team yet with Patrick Mahomes as starting quarterback. Because the defense just got good. They had a top 10 defense last year.
Yeah.
He hadn't had a top 10 defense with Spagnuolo yet. That was the first time under their Super Bowl run they've had an elite defense like that. So now what if the defense picks up where it left off, continues to be elite, and then now you got the weapons, because last year you didn't have the wide receivers. Now you got the wide receivers. And this is nothing that we haven't talked about Kansas City. Do you realize that they've been largely shuffling offensive linemen during his Super Bowl run? Like he's had a different left tackle in all of his Super Bowls.
That's crazy. That's so basically. I saw a thing the other day. Richard Sherman was talking about how the wide receiver market is out of tech, because he said if you were to ask somebody what the second most valuable position is on a team, they'd say left tackle, not wide receiver. Yeah. But that means that he basically did it without a wide receiver or a left tackle. He said, I don't need
two most valuable, the second, or easily, depending on which group you're talking to, the second most valuable position in football. The Chiefs have started a different left tackle in all 4 of his Super Bowls.
That's crazy.
It was Eric Fisher in 2019, Mike Remmers when Fisher was injured in 2020, Orlando Brown Jr. in 2022, and last year it was Donovan Smith. And by the way, they got another one. Because he's gone. Donovan Smith is gone.
So they
got a new left tackle. They got a 2nd-round rookie, Kingsley Suamataya from BYU. He's getting a week 1 start too.
Mahomes say, "Hey man, don't break moving left. Keep it changing."
That's how good this dude is. He ain't even had the same left tackle. They just been running. That's the second most important position in football. Like, nah, we good. Patrick Mahomes will handle it. Just throw some guy in there. They'll figure it out. What about wide receiver? Worst wide receiving core in the league. Dropped 44 passes last year. Patrick Mahomes will figure it out.
Hey, what's cheap? What's cheap? Tight end. Give me one of them.
It's amazing. Like I'm saying, when you dive deep into it, you go, how the hell are they about to 3P? How did they do that? Like they were down double digits in every Super Bowl, pretty much. They played. He's been down double digits in every Super Bowl, guys. And the only one that actually held was the one he lost against Tampa Bay, because it was the GOAT. He had to go. There was another GOAT, and he couldn't handle it. And that was a hell of a game plan, by the way. A defensive game plan too. But yeah, the Chiefs led the NFL. Didn't they lead the NFL in holding calls too last year? Wasn't
Yeah,
something
I
weird
think
like that?
they were
They were like one of the leaders. They were one of
it
the
was
leaders. I don't know
it
if
was
they were.
really high all season long, and then they
Yeah.
didn't have one in the Super Bowl, and everybody freaked out and said it
Yes.
was rigged. But it was
He just may be that good, guys. Like I'm telling you, I keep trying to. Like, how the hell did he win the Super Bowl last year with that wide receiving core being as bad as it was? And he had a different left tackle, and he will again if they make the Super Bowl. Different left tackle in every Super Bowl that he's played in. Like that's
yeah, it's
just
crazy.
crazy. All right, I got some more random factoids about Kansas City because I've been doing some research about this three-peat, man. This possible three-peat. I think to me that's the. I don't know if there's a story, the biggest storyline this year, but it's the most compelling to me because we haven't seen that in the Super Bowl era. And I just wonder if, that's something, that if it happens, because like I said, even the teams who have been in the situation, they have been in this particular situation where Kansas City is, and they have been on the verge of a three-peat. They don't even make it back to the Super Bowl. We haven't even had one make it back.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be
to
interesting.
threaten the three-peat.
Yeah, I mean, this will be, and again, it's the week one of a very long season, but
yes, of course.
but it'll be, but it's a big matchup to start off the season, and you feel like this matters more probably to the Ravens than it does to the Chiefs because they want to show that they can beat the Chiefs. They want to get that victory week one and get moving in the right direction, but it's just hard to beat the Chiefs. It's just really, really hard to beat the Chiefs. I'm excited to see Xavier Worthy tonight and see if they use him or if it just is still the underneath in the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes show, and everything else is somewhat of a decoy.
Yeah. No, that I can't. I already know that's going to work out. I can't see how. In the preseason, I think we got a sneak peek of it. But that Xavier Worthy, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, marriage union is going to be, I think, deadly for the rest of the NFL. And as a Texans fan, I'm upset about that too. All right, it says here the Chiefs were the sixth most penalized team in the NFL during the regular season. So it didn't give me exactly where, but I know they were one of the leaders.
I know they had a lot of
calls.
holes in it because it was a story when it wasn't called in the Super Bowl. I know that.
I know that too. Yeah. And as I said, I believe the stat came that, they were one of the leaders. I want to say they were at the top, but I'll find this stat for you. Hey, we got a What the Facts with the Stat segment that we can find that for you. But this is kind of the theme, and I'll get into this a little bit later on, though, for the season for me, that keep in mind that none of the 8 previous teams to repeat as Super Bowl champions made it to the Super Bowl when they had a chance to three-peat. They didn't make it back. The closest anyone has come is 1990 49ers, who had a late lead against the Giants at home in the NFC title game. And then there was a fumble by Roger Craig and set up the New York Giants. And then the Giants pulled the upset win. And I'm assuming the Parcells versus Bill Walsh. The the West Coast intellectual versus the power and the brute force of the Parcells model and blueprint, which was kind of that was really the back and forth, and that was the rivalry that really set the tone for the 90s. And then that coaching tree still has kind of taken over. The Mick Shanahan coaching tree is from the Bill Walsh coaching tree initially, and then I think the Bill Walsh coaching tree is from the Paul Brown coaching tree, if I'm not mistaken. Starting out, got to do some research on that, but I believe that is the case. All right, we'll get back to NFL discussion, but it's time to talk some Longhorns. So we'll go behind the burnt orange curtain. We'll talk about their matchup against the Michigan Wolverines. There are certain trends that have a higher success rate, higher probability, and higher odds of leading to a win for teams and certain different metrics, and there are certain stats that overwhelmingly help teams win football games. And we'll talk about how they relate to Texas versus Michigan, the trends to win, if you will. And we'll get into that, talk about that matchup. Also, we'll get into Quinn Ewers. Mel Kiper had an interesting analysis of Quinn Ewers and what is at stake for him in this Texas-Michigan game. I kind of agree with it. There's a lot on the line for Quinn going up against a really good defense, a lot of NFL players, NFL defensive coordinator on the other side, on a big stage away from home. We'll talk about that too. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. All right, I did find the stat. Heading into the Super Bowl, Kansas City led the league with 30 offensive holding penalties in 2023. So
There you
they
go.
did lead the NFL. Yeah.
It sounded
Um,
right.
yeah, I knew it because I was at the Super Bowl, and I remember people were literally 49er fans. They were yelling about how there was no holding penalties called on the Kansas City Chiefs, and yet they led the NFL in holding calls. And I believe the stat is they have not had a holding call. They've only had one holding call in their 4 Super Bowls.
I'll tell you, Rod. It's almost
I
like
believe that is I'll go. I actually I go check it out, but that's what the article I read. And I got one that stat from Sports Illustrated. The other article said that in 4 Super Bowls they've only been called for one. So that's where the conspiracy theory I think starts.
yes,
Yeah,
I get it. I
yeah.
don't believe it though.
He said the offense was called for a holding penalty just once in the 3 Super Bowls prior to this last one. Former Kansas City Chiefs Byron Pringle was called for a holding penalty when the Chiefs beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl for the first time in 2019. There were over 9 minutes left in the third quarter when that penalty was called on Pringle. So 49ers fans have been keeping up with it, man. Trust me, because they've seen them twice. So half of these are on them. So they're deep, in-depth articles about holding
Yes.
calls at the 49ers. You can find them online. They're not hard to find. All right, there you go. So we'll come back to that conversation. Talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. It ain't luck, and I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think they're just really good, and it's hard to beat them. It's going to be hard for Texas to beat Michigan as well. It's a big game, and for a lot of reasons. And the fast start is going to be crucial for Texas in this game. If it starts slow, there's a chance then Michigan wants to muck this thing up. And they want to muck it up, and they want it to they want to bring this thing to a crawl. They would love for this game to flow at a snail's pace, if you will. And if you're at Texas, you can't allow that to happen. You gotta speed things up. You gotta turn into a track meet. As I pointed out, they want to turn it into a slugfest. They want to turn it into a fist fight. You go look at their time, seconds per snap, and like in between snaps. They're 130th in the country. They are trying to slow this thing down and limit possessions, limit plays for Texas. And so you'll see them operating at a snail's pace. And that is, like I said, so the contrast in styles is going to be, I think, really interesting to watch because Texas, if you're Texas, you want to spread Michigan out, and even times you want to go fast, you want to go up tempo, and you want to turn things, like I said, into a track meet. You want to turn this into a game that's about speed, a game that's about them defending your weapons on the perimeter in the passing game, and they want to make it a fist fight in a phone booth. And we'll see which style dominates. Because if they can run the football, then it may be problematic for Texas if they can run it consistently, especially on first down. First down is down the watch, guys. First down is down the watch. If they're in second and medium, that's where they want to be. That's for them. That's money. If they're in second and medium, that's second and 5, second and 6. If they're right around there a lot, their playbook is wide open. But if they're in second and long, second and 7 or more, then I think, and that's kind of the margin we're talking about here, then their playbook shrinks and they become more predictable. And that's when Texas has a huge advantage because then they're more likely to have to lean on their quarterbacks, whoever it is, Alex Orji or Davis Warren. It doesn't matter. They can't throw the football downfield consistently with accuracy. On passes 10 yards or more, Davis Warren was 1 of 5 for 10 yards and 1 interception versus Fresno State. That's not where they want to be. They don't want to have to throw it. I think he averaged 4.7 yards per attempt throwing the football. I believe Jarrett Gibson and Jaden Blue averaged more than that running the ball and that yards per rush. So there are a couple of things I think that could just really tip the scales in this game in either favor. And it could really, I think Texas has a better team. The line also reflects that. I think it's still 7.5 or around 7, a touchdown for Texas on the road. That's a big number. But turnovers could be huge in this game. Turnovers, obviously, that's the number one it really it's kind of the number one stat or the number one factor in determining usually a big upset or a surprising win of some sort, surprising result. You go look immediately at turnovers of what happened there. And for years, football school's been doing a good job of this, but I've been keeping up with these because they track them year to year. Like basically the five most important factors and trends to win in college football. It's really interesting. And if you look at winning the turnover margin, 70% win percentage if for teams that win the turnover margin. By the way, that was just in weeks Z. That was this year. That's in the first week one and week zero. The teams who win the turnover margin win the game 70% of the time. When I go back and look at it from 20 2022 and 2023, some of the previous years, that tracks as well. Teams that win the turnover battle from the last 3 years, 75% win percentage. It turnover margin, and Texas got two turnovers in the game. They won the turnover margin. They only gave up one turnover. That was the interception by Quinn. Same thing with Michigan. They got two interceptions in that game, I believe, and they had one turnover, so they won the turnover margin. Last year, they were one of the best in the country. Now that was a different team and different defense too. Still really good defense. But if you look at turnovers, takeaways, they only three teams in college football had more than Michigan last season. They had 27. And Texas wasn't bad. Texas ended up with 24, like I said earlier. So Texas had a lot of takeaways in their own regard. Michigan was top three in interceptions last year, with 18 interceptions. And this year they have a really good secondary. Not as good as it was when before Rod Moore. He's one of the starting safeties, NFL player. He got hurt. He'll be with the team later on this year, but he's going to miss that Texas game. So that secondary actually doesn't have. There's still some turnover back there that Texas could take advantage of. But when you look at turnover margin last year, Michigan led the country in turnover margin. So that's something to keep in mind. They if they can, we want to slug it out, so their margin for error is really thin. They'll be able to take advantage of hidden yardage on special teams because they do have really good special teams. They have a really good defense. So that's the way they want to get favorable field position by playing good defense and playing good special teams, and then give their offense favorable field position, especially with turnovers. So turnovers are going to be big. I mean, that's, to me, other than some of the stuff that we've already talked about, if Texas takes care of the football up there, I don't know if Michigan. I think Michigan has to have a takeaway or two, and hell, even Colorado State got one to give them to flip the field for them or give them favorable field position every now and then and give them an easy scoring opportunity where they don't have to march down the field because they don't have a lot of explosive plays. Explosive plays is how you march down the field, right? You get explosive plays. Late great Bill Walsh had the great quote about explosive plays in his book, Finding the Winning Edge. And it's hard to even find that book these days, Finding the Winning Edge. But basically his research, Bill Walsh said, if you win the explosive play margin, if you win it by one play, you win the game 60 to 65% of the time. If you win it by more than two plays, then you win the game 80 to 80+% of the time. That was Bill Walsh, back then when he wrote the book, and it still holds true today about explosive plays. Texas allowed only 4 plays of 10+ yards versus Colorado State. Texas actually is one of 8 teams in college football that has not allowed a 20+ yard play. Michigan allowed 2 versus Fresno State. I'm not saying that Texas defense is better than Michigan defense. I'm just talking about explosive plays. Texas didn't allow a 20+ yard play. They allowed 4 10+ yard plays. Michigan allowed 12 plays of 10+ yards to Fresno State. And like I said, they allowed 2 20+ yard plays. If I think Texas can get some explosive plays versus Michigan. If Fresno State can do it, then Texas can do it. And Fresno State actually did it, throwing at Will Johnson a couple of times. Will Johnson was targeted 8 times, allowed 5 receptions for 77 yards, gave up 4 first downs. He did get the pick 6 because he's a beast. He's one of the best corners in the country. But they at least got some explosive plays on him. If they can get explosive plays on him, then Texas can get explosive plays on anybody in that secondary. Texas had 21 10-plus yard plays on offense, 7 plays of 20-plus yards. Texas, that to me, and that's why Texas should lean on the explosive elements. All right, within the offense, Texas should lean on those. Those are your empty formation against Colorado State. Empty formation. You were extremely explosive. You ran it 3 times. You had 2 explosive plays, which tracks because last 3 weeks of the season last year, your explosive play rate was above 30% out of empty formation. Spread them out and hit them with explosive plays because they don't have enough guys. They don't got 5 Will Johnsons back there. Same thing with, you guys know I'm obsessed with the pony package, but the pony package works, especially for explosive plays. You ran it versus Colorado State like 6 times. You ended up with 2 explosive plays. And if you go look at the passing game, you threw it 4 times, and out of the 4 times you threw it, you had those 2 explosive plays were in the passing game. To me, that's something to use versus Michigan. Michigan wants to play power football. They get sucked up into your power set anyway, and then you could hit them with play action pass principles. Present power personnel and pivot to play action pass principles. Whatever elements of your offense are disproportionately explosive, use more of them versus Michigan. Explosive play rate. Targets to motion, which is when you throw the ball to a player that was in motion prior to the snap, at the time of the snap. Your completion rate's really high, but more importantly, your explosive play rate. You had 5 targets to motion in the game, 2 explosive plays. That's a really high explosive play rate. So if I'm Texas, that's what I'm leaning on as a part of it too. That's one of the biggest trends to win is explosive play rate. And Texas has a lot of it. I think you even break out that red package I talked about, that 10 personnel package, 1 back, 0 tight ends. I think you break that out versus Michigan. You want to spread them out, turn it into a track meet, and force them to have to keep up with you with explosive plays because they don't have that element really in their offense. They had 10-plus yard plays on offense. 6 of those were passing, and 4 of those were to the tight end. They had 2 20-plus yard plays versus Fresno State. 1 half of those to the tight end. Stop the run, cover the tight end. You can kind of choke the life out of the Michigan offense, but stopping the run is a Herculean task. I'm not saying that's easy. So that's another trend to win. Turnovers. Make sure you get the turnovers. All right, win the turnover margin. You want to win the explosive play margin. And I think if scoring first, I don't know why it's not considered more of, kind of more of a something that coaches prioritize and more of an emphasis for coaches to score first. They usually will, if they win the coin toss, they'll defer and they want the ball in the second half. And you would think scoring, I was talking to Coach Bob Shipley about this. You think scoring first would have more value to coaches, that it would matter more. Look at scoring first in weeks 0 through 1. The win percentage of teams who score first, 82%. Teams that lead at halftime have won 89% of the games. Leading at halftime and scoring first. Over the last 3 years, or at least since 2022, teams that score first, 67% win percentage. Lead at halftime, 79, damn near 80% win percentage. Why don't coaches emphasize scoring first more?
I would want to see that stat, though, with underdogs. Because sometimes you're like, well, we scored, Texas scored first against Colorado State. And you're like, well, yeah, but that's just because it's the better team. So scoring, they could have scored 3 and we would have won 52-3. So it wouldn't have necessarily.
There were times Texas won with teams go, but it's still, you cannot deny the stat.
No, I think
scoring first. Yeah, how about this? Even in the NFL, this is over the last 10 years. So your underdog thing wouldn't matter as much, right? Because college, you have a disparity in talent. In the NFL, highest league, the highest caliber of talent, right? The most competitive level. Last 10 years, so a huge sample size. Teams that score first win 64% of the games.
Yeah. No, I believe that it makes a
It
difference.
it matters. It matters. Why doesn't it matter to coaches? Because
I
it does matter.
well, I
It
get the same
matters.
reason why, and I get why a coach would want to do it, but you can never tell your players that.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, why not coaches? Why aren't they more adamant and more aggressive? We're like, no, we want the ball and we want to score first, baby. Because scoring first, it means 60% of the time, 64, 70% of the time, we're gonna win the game. And
Yeah.
and lead it. They don't seem that doesn't seem to be a priority at all. But the
I
numbers tell you NFL level, so it's not just a disparity in talent at the college level, that scoring first, it actually matters. Now, why it matters, that's a different discussion. I don't have the
yeah.
analytics for that, but it does matter.
No, it does.
I think it's more of a confidence thing than anything.
I think it does, but I mean, and kicking the ball off doesn't mean you don't score first either.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
You're right about
normally
that.
the
The
normal
defense could
offensive
be really good.
concept would be, well, if we hold them and they punt, we get better field position to start our first drive anyway, and we have a better chance to score first.
Very true. No, I get you. But when you do have a high octane offense, why not take it and want to score
Yeah.
first?
No, I get it. I mean,
And you
Texas
know
has a
your script is your best, usually some of your
but
best plays. Why
but we
not, like,
also
I'm gonna
know
shock them with that?
how many times has Texas scored on their first drive in the last two seasons. I can go back and look, but I'd imagine
Mm,
it's like once or twice. They are not very
yeah, I
good
don't
on that
know.
first drive. They didn't score on
I
the
gotta
first
go
drive
check
against
that out.
Colorado State. They stalled out
Yeah.
after a penalty. So it's just, I know in Texas they just don't score a lot on that first drive. So I don't mind them necessarily kicking the ball away because they just don't have a great track record on that very first drive of actually getting it all the way down and scoring. I will say though, when you talk about important things of explosive plays and turnovers, where those combine, that is the run for Texas a lot of times. Is you get a touchdown and then a turnover and then an explosive play, or an explosive play into a turnover, and then that's when you get those Sark runs that we've talked about a lot that Texas continues to have, is when you combine explosive plays and turnovers within drives right next to each other, and all of a sudden that score flips 14 points, and that is a gigantic confidence boost.
Yeah. Just win the turnover margin, score first if possible. All right, score first and win the explosive play margin. I think those are my three. I think scoring first, I guess leading at halftime is in there too. I kind of throw that into the score first, but those are the three: score first, win the turnover margin, win the explosive play margin. Texas does that, they're gonna roll versus Michigan if they win all three. You can win just one of those and win the game. All right, you win just one, you're supposed to play margin, or just win the turnover margin, and maybe scoring first. But if you hit all three, the trifecta, they're gonna roll. They're gonna beat them by double digits. Because I don't think Michigan has the offensive firepower really to play that kind of game. That if Texas is getting those short fields, Texas has that run. If Texas has that run, we talk about, right, that I've said is essentially the one of the hallmarks of a Sark team, and we've seen it since he's gotten here. There's the run. If they have that, if Michigan allows that run, which they'll try to limit by going slow and having a lot of time in between snaps and playing power football, but if Texas has that run, Michigan has no chance. They can't withstand that run because they don't have the offense to catch up after that run. All right, we come back. We got to run. We got to run to the break, and we'll come back with the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day, and also your musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back on the Rodcast here on a Thursday. That means it's a new theme Thursday. I play music picked up a theme each Thursday, and today's theme is going to be musicians from Michigan. Pay a little respect to Michigan before the game. Show some goodwill before we go up there and show some bad will during the game. And so all musicians from Michigan, there is a lot of really, really good musicians. So this one was one where you had to kind of pick and choose to get the ones that are in there and try to make it a little bit more eclectic of what's in there. But lots and lots of good musicians from Michigan. So I made that one the easy one for me. Let's get to the big fat poll today. Text line's open 512-447-3776. And we'll put this posted up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
All right. So yesterday we asked you how many rushing yards will Texas have against Michigan, and today we'll ask you how many rushing yards will Michigan have against Texas. How many rushing yards can Texas hold Michigan to? A big point of the game is going to be, can you get out of series, not allow them to pick up first downs on the ground and just run clock and not let you get explosive plays and not make your offense go sit on the bench, tire your defense down. If they can just keep running the ball and picking it up and then get a couple Loveland first downs in there as well, but just basically pick you apart and just run that clock. And so it's how many rushing yards will Michigan have against Texas? We'll give you the same numbers, 0 to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, and 200 plus. They had 4 games last year that they had 200 plus, including a 300 plus yard game, I believe, in the national championship.
Wow.
So they had one 300 plus yard game. They had one game under 100 against Iowa last year. I believe they had 66 rushing yards against Iowa. So that was their one under 100 last year. Everything else was at least 100 yards, and then a few that were over 200. They had 148 against Fresno State. You want to look at that number, the one they played this season. And you also have to remember this season they are running in without J.J. McCarthy.
Yep.
Without some of their options at wide receiver. So this is the passing attack is less. You're going to see they're going to rely more on that running game. But this Texas defense, this is kind of more of a question of how do you think this Texas defense is going to hold against Michigan? Do you think this Texas defense will be able to hold them under 150 when we figure they're going to run the ball a ton against Texas? Where do you put this, Rod?
Yeah. And the choices are 0 to 50. You start
0 to
50.
100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, and 200 plus. Same as we gave for Texas.
Man, I'm going to say somewhere in the range of 100 to 150.
Okay, so hold them.
If Colorado State can do that, they can do that. But this is the thing: the difference would be Texas was not focusing on stopping the Colorado State run game. Their focus was on taking away the passing game, taking away their strength, which they did effectively. And I'm going to bank on Johnny Nance and PK taking away the strength of Michigan. That's kind of going to be their theme. Their strength is running the ball. So, yeah, they'll get that 100 to 150 yards, but their yards per rush won't be very effective. That's kind of what I'm banking on.
And I mean, you could also throw in
inefficient.
You can throw in that if Texas goes on that run in the first half and Texas gets up double digits going into the second half, how long does Michigan continue to just run the ball before maybe they have to take some more shots and have to start trying to throw the ball, especially if Texas is still loading the box there in the second half? At what point do they say we can't keep running the clock? These guys are scoring on us and we're not scoring on them at the same rate. Is there a possibility to lower their rushing yards?
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It all depends on what's their rushing. A lot of it is, to me, how they're rushing the ball on early downs, on first down. The first down rushing, to me, is going to be the key to the game. If they're running the ball, if they're averaging over 4 yards a rush just on first down alone, then that changes everything. Texas win first down. I think they win the game pretty much.
Yeah.
Because Michigan on second and long and third and long, man, they just don't have the ability to throw the football downfield accurately and effectively. So I'm going to go between 100 and 150 because that would mean, I'm not saying you're shutting down the running game, but you've held it in check. And I think as long as you don't let them go off in the running game and and average over 5.5 yards per carry, then I think you're okay if you're Texas.
Yeah.
They got to be averaging 4 or less. If they average like even 4, even averaging close to 5 would mean that Michigan that's their kind of football game, right? They're getting 5 yards a carry. That's
Because
pretty
then you can
damn
just
good.
keep running.
You just keep running. Just
Just
keep
keep
running and
running.
converting. Yeah, but you averaging less than 4. You're like, all right, we got to throw it. Dude. We got to get some yards here. I got to get some chunk yardage at one point. So it's gonna be close. But yeah, I'm going 1 to 150, somewhere in that category.
All right, 1 to 150, and then let us know what you guys think. Do you think Texas will be able to slow it down? Do you think that they shut down the passing game enough that the running game does pick up 175, 180, but it doesn't really matter because there's no passing game whatsoever? So that is all kind of for naught. Or is it that you really do have these worries about Texas' rushing defense and Michigan just eats all day long against Texas? It's a possibility. We don't know. This rushing defense has not been tested this season, so we will have to see.
Yeah, that interior D line it's really gonna be a game about whether they can rise to the occasion, and the linebackers too. I think Anthony Hill's gonna be great. I think Benda's gonna be great, but there's a third linebacker that also could be exploited if they're not
exactly.
They don't rise to the occasion. So
the third, and then maybe even sometimes a fourth linebacker that gets into these games, depending on how much they're running,
what package they want to use.
How much package you could have 4 linebackers, and if they're looking at one side and they say that's a weak side, run that way.
Agreed. Yep. No, I'm with you. We don't know if there's a weakness on that rush defense for Texas. If there is one, Michigan will find it. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into NFL discussion. Good stuff there, Patrick. We'll come back. We'll get to the NFL discussion. We'll hear from Michael Parsons. I think he might have revealed, or at least given us a sneak peek, how Mike Zimmer plans to use him. We'll also continue to talk about the NFL kickoff tonight, kicking off between the Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll preview that matchup, and we'll dive into some other NFL discussion right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday, and that's when my co-host, the Ideal Patrick Davis, comes up with a creative theme based on something that inspired him, and he's inspired by the big matchup coming up this weekend between Texas and Michigan. So the new theme he's dedicating to that Texas-Michigan game is Michigan musicians. There are a lot of really good ones. My man Patrick has introduced us to, and Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Michigan man.
Michigan.
All right, I like that. There you go. I didn't even realize that. There you go. Who's the first one, actually?
Bob
Who's the
Seger.
first one you played?
Bob Seger.
Bob Seger. Okay. All right. Want to keep up with that. I spent some time in Michigan with Detroit Lions, so I got Michigan has a special place in my heart. I lived up there in Dearborn, Michigan for a while, and yeah, had a lot of Michigan Wolverine fans that I lived around and got a chance to know up there too. So yeah, there's a connection, and there's a lot of Michiganders in Texas. I don't know why, right? Have you noticed that too? A lot of Michiganders end up in Texas too. Not sure why that is the case, but there's a connection. But the first time that these two programs, historic programs, will play in the regular season. Remember that, of course, they played in that 04 Rose Bowl, classic, iconic, legendary game. And then we know the next season, the Longhorns made history because they end up winning the national title in that very same place. So the first time that the Longhorns will meet Michigan since then, and a very different Michigan team, but they are the defending national title. Speaking of national championship, they're the defending national championship. Yeah. It don't feel like that. It doesn't feel like Texas is playing a defending national title champion. They are. It's probably one of the biggest, probably the most turnover we've seen from a defending national champion from year to year, probably in college football history. Is one of the, I would think,
which is funny because Texas had a ton of players drafted too. And it doesn't feel like Texas is a different team. Yes. I get it's because quarterback is still there, coach is still there,
coaches, yeah.
Like there's a lot of turnover in major positions for Michigan that it felt like things were going downhill. And then of course the fact that Donovan Edwards had a really bad week one, which maybe is, maybe it was just a bad week or I don't know what it was. But if you put him as, well, this is one of your remaining pieces from the national championship team that you were expecting to do well the next season.
He didn't look good.
And then he just did not look good at all. That puts you into a little bit of a worry too of, okay, well, if he's not going to be part of the offense, well, who from this team last year is still part of this? And it's Loveland. Yeah. It's your one guy on the offense here.
I know, but they got to have more than that.
I agree. Well, no, Rod, they don't.
Tight end.
They don't need to have more than that. It's a Texas fan. They need nothing more than that. Yes, give them that and shut them down.
That offense will be better. Some people are starting to believe that, they were playing, it was the okey, the old rope-a-dope that they were pulling the okey doke on us and maybe they were vanilla in their offense in terms of what they wanted to show. But this first game of the season, they didn't want to come out and have that kind of showing. But that hurts your pride and confidence as a team to come out there and not be able to run the football. If you're Donovan Edwards, 11 rushes for 27 yards, trust me, he's disappointed in that. So I think you'll get the bounce back factor with those guys. It's a big game, so there'll be hype. Michigan's got a home game winning streak that's one of the longest in the country. So they've won a lot of consecutive games, and they're used to winning ugly. I mean, that ugly win, that's not far from how they win all the time. They just win. It was just tighter later in the game than it needed to be, and then Michigan pulled away. But, I mean, Michigan, they're going to try to win ugly versus Texas. They want to slow the game down, muck it up, and turn it into a fist fight. And Fresno State actually did a decent job early on spreading them out and trying to, turn it into their version of a track meet, but they still can't run away from Michigan. And they couldn't run the ball. I mean, Fresno State had, 9 rushing yards? Something like that. I mean, they were averaging 3 yards. I think their leading rusher averaged 3 yards per rush. They knew they couldn't run the ball against Michigan. But they throwing the football, they actually made some plays. Now, they took some chances, and their quarterback threw 2 picks. And I think that's, for Texas, we talked about it, that turnovers are going to be big in this game.
Yep.
Can't afford costly turnovers on the road in a game like this to give Michigan that kind of momentum. And Michigan is a very opportunistic defense. They have been. But I think if Texas can get a lead in this game of any kind, it's going to make life tough on Michigan. And because I think if Texas gets behind early 7 points or 10 points, I trust Texas can get an explosive play or two down the line at one point. And Michigan's not gonna stack. They're not gonna stack points on you. That's just not how the offense works. They're gonna get up 7 to 10 points and then try to choke the life out of the clock and then kind of choke you out, and and limit possessions. Texas gets up. Texas trying to stack points on you.
Oh yeah,
Texas trying to get a run going on you, and so I think Texas has a better chance if they are down early in the game of coming back, rather than Michigan that doesn't have a vertical passing attack or that explosivity.
You said you gave that number. The lead rusher was four carries for 12 yards for 3 yards a carry. The other scary one is Malik Sherrod, who had 14 carries for 24 yards. That's a
yeah.
That is not a good day at the office.
Banging your head against a brick wall. It's like, yeah. But that's how good that rush defense is pretty good. I don't expect Texas to be able to run the ball that well against him. I don't. I'm not going to be arrogant about that. And that defense is left front seven has 4-5 NFL guys on it.
Yeah.
I don't expect Texas to be able to run the ball against that group. If they can, that's trouble for Michigan if Texas can run the ball. I expect Texas to be that basically to balance out the offense with the run game to keep them honest, but the running game to be largely symbolic.
Yep.
I don't know if it'll be you'll break big runs early on the game. You'll lean on that pass. That's what Michigan fears. And Michigan does not fear your run game, and they shouldn't. But they will fear how prolific you are in the passing game and how they defend all those weapons that you have in the wide receiver room, in addition to a Jaden Blue coming out of the backfield, in addition to your tight end room. That, to me, is the strength of the team. That's what they should lean on. All right, we'll talk Michigan, of course, Texas, Michigan, all throughout the show. Let's first get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories. Then we'll come back, talk some more NFL. We got some, we'll throw in some Texans talk, or we got some Cowboys discussion. We'll hear from Micah Parsons, who I think revealed a little bit of Mike Zimmer's vision for how he wants to use him. And I like it, by the way. I like what I'm hearing so far. We'll get into that. And also we'll dive a little bit into these Mel Kiper comments. Mel Kiper commented about Quinn Ewers and what he's got, what's on the line for him, what's at stake for him in this game versus Michigan. And I think he's right. I think there's a lot at stake for Quinn Ewers. Does he want to be QB1? If he does, this game is going to be, I think, a huge factor in whether he can leapfrog a Shadur Sanders, leapfrog a Carson Beck. So we'll talk about that too. But first, let's get to the Horn headlines with Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros were never able to get out of the gates against the Reds last night, allowing 9 runs in the first inning and losing 12-5. The Astros will try to forget about the bad loss as they finish the series today, sending Hunter Brown to the mound. The Rangers won their series with the Yankees with a 10-6 win yesterday. Wyatt Langford had another big night with 3 hits, 3 runs, and 2 RBIs while making an above-the-wall catch, robbing a home run to end the game in the 9th. Nathan Eovaldi pitched 7 innings, allowing 2 runs and striking out 6 in the game, picking up his 11th win of the season. And the Rangers will now begin a 4-game series with the Angels, with Cody Bradford getting the start tonight. And over in the NFL, the Ravens and Chiefs kick off the NFL season tonight on NBC. The rematch of the AFC title game from last season brings a debut of Derrick Henry on the Ravens and Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs as the two teams battle for early control of the AFC. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. We'll get back to some Texas-Michigan discussion, of course. That is our top topic of the day. But I want to get into some NFL talk. Patrick, could you pull that Micah Parsons audio for us? Now, Micah Parsons was speaking to the media, and originally I think he was being asked about the new additions on the defensive line, Linval Joseph, and bringing in some of those other defensive linemen that are going to help open things up for him, Jordan Phillips. But then he started, we have this part of the audio. He started to get into how Mike Zimmer is going to use him. And he sounds excited about this, but he got me pretty excited for Cowboys fans about Zimmer's vision for Micah Parsons. Here is what Micah Parsons had to say.
I know y'all look at that PFF stuff, but y'all going to see I'm moving around a lot. Like, I don't think there is a side. I think he's, I got my own personnels and stuff. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to say that, and I think I'll probably play every single person. And I think this is the first year where I could be in the 2-eye, I could be in the 3, I could be in the 4. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, I could be a linebacker, be in the slot. I could almost be the safety if you look at it that way.
How many different positions you think you'll play?
I don't know. He got the packaging, but at the same time, it's all about calling a good game. If we're giving up a lot on first down, it's gonna be hard to get in those packages. If we're giving up, and they're winning in the marks of the field sticks, all that stuff matters. But if we do what we do, I think I could play a lot of different positions.
All right, there you go. So if everything goes well, it's almost like you have to earn the right to get into your exotic looks. Like we talked about this with Texas against Colorado State. Texas, it was a 3rd and 8, 3rd and long, 3rd and 8, and 3rd and 14. And Texas broke out the NASCAR front with 3 defensive ends, with the dime package, 6 DBs, with a 3 high safety look, and playing an inverted Tampa 2 coverage. Ooh, just titillating with all the different exotic looks you're throwing in there together. It's a gumbo of exotic, concepts defensively. You can't do all that really unless you just straight up stop the run early on. You got to stop the run on first down, get them into 2nd and long, the 3rd and long, predictable passing situations, and then you can get funky and you can get creative. But until then, you still got to do. You got to earn the right to get exotic, and that's to Mike with Micah. That's going to be the challenge for him. Micah is an elite pass rusher and disruptor. And when it comes to the passing game, there's no doubt about that. That's how he can win Defensive Player of the Year. And he's in that conversation. But he's an above average run defender. When he becomes, because he's got the talent to be an elite run defender too. Everybody knows that. The question is, does it matter that much to him? And maybe Zimmer can, because Dan Quinn, great defensive mind, but had his own philosophy. And he liked the hybridism of Micah Parsons too. But Dan Quinn had a philosophy of stop the run on your way to the quarterback. Let's just go create chaos, period. And Mike Zimmer's more of a gap integrity guy. His defenses are more stabilized. He doesn't like guys painting outside coloring outside the lines. He wants you to make plays within the structure of the defense. Dan Quinn didn't give a damn if you painted outside the lines. Just go make the play. Go make the play. We'll live with the result. We'll live with a little structural integrity, lack of structural integrity at times with the defense. We can live with you bending the rules and even breaking the rules of my defense, Trevon Diggs, right? As long as you go make the play. And Zimmer does not operate that way. He wants guys to make plays within the structure of the defense. So that is going to be, for Michael Parsons, also part of the challenge. But early on, he's going to want him just to be a stout run defender. And if he can be an elite run defender, man, the sky's the limit for Michael Parsons. Right now, teams are just going to attack him by making him be a run defender because they don't think it matters enough to him. And that has been one of the criticisms behind the scenes, why some people have called him a selfish player, because if he wanted to be an elite run defender, that would matter to him, then he would be a force of nature out there.
Yeah.
And maybe this year he will be.
All right. How many snaps do you think he actually plays not on the edge?
Oh, percentage-wise?
Yeah.
Maybe 15 to 20%.
I would say it's less than that. I would guess it's like 5 to 10. I get that. I get that he's saying that. I don't buy fully because he said this before. I think before last season, even he was saying that he could play linebacker. He's gonna play, and then he did not play linebacker at all. He played edge the entire season. And so I think that there's a point where he's going to. I think it will be more and more edge than anything else. And then every once in a while they'll show a different look just to try and throw you off. But I can't imagine that he's going to play a ton outside of edge. Which you're not saying that anyway, but that's
no. But and I remember he's at one point he said he was going to be exclusively an edge guy.
Yeah,
I remember he said that, and then Dan Quinn corrected him. It's like, no, he's a pass rushing linebacker because Dan Quinn still wanted to have the freedom to move him around. He has been playing more edge than anything else, of course, because that's where I think he can be the most impactful. I would always move him around a little bit game to game. I do think it forces the opposing team to have to practice against different looks and account for Micah all the time within their scheme, which in itself is misinformation seeds of misinformation you're planning with them. And then I think most of the time he's going to be used with twists and stunts. You want to get him on a matchup, they'll just, run games with him, with the interior defensive lineman. But I'm with you. I think he'll be on the edge. I I like moving him around a little bit, but I think Zimmer will have him there. And Zim does a great job. Zimmer does a great job with disguise too. And maybe that's gonna be part of it. I would spin Micah down too. I wouldn't doubt if you see him in a 2-point stance. I see him standing up on the edge more, maybe spinning down from the linebacker position to the edge. Dan Quinn likes to do that a lot with Michael Parsons too. But this year, I mean, it'll be a big year for him as a run defender. There's no more question about him as an elite pass elite pass rusher. I mean, that's everybody knows that. That's self-evident.
Yeah.
The Green Bay Packers, they've exposed him. A lot of teams did last year for being an above average to an average run defender. And why wouldn't you just run at Michael Parsons? Just run at him.
No, and I mean, in your week 1 matchup is one that is kind of, I don't know, he may be better at it because, the Browns like to run the ball, but Nick Chubb's out still. So you're not sure if that run game is going to be as stout as it could be with Chubb out. And then Deshaun Watson coming back. Do you trust Deshaun? I'd rush Deshaun Watson plenty in that game, and I blitzed Deshaun Watson to try and make him be a quarterback again who has not played a lot in the last few seasons. I'd go after him too. So, week 1 may not be the best example of it against some other quarterbacks that maybe you don't want to put as much pressure on, but I think against the Browns, you want to put some pressure on Deshaun Watson just because you want to make him make quick decisions again because he hasn't done it in a while.
Yeah, no, that matchup is pretty interesting. We'll break that down a little bit. The Browns, because the Browns have so much talent, man. They're just loaded with talent. And when is Deshaun Watson going to look like the top 5 quarterback he did in 2020? When is he going to look like that again? Is he ever going to look like that again?
Yeah.
Because if he ever does, if he looks like that again, then they are a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. But I don't know if he'll ever look like that again. And nobody, I don't even know if he's, I don't know. I think at this point, after what has transpired and everything, the controversy and the civil lawsuits about sexual misconduct, and now that his image is tarnished, I don't even know if he's the same person, let alone the same quarterback. I think everything about him has changed.
I just looked up how old he is too, though. He's 28.
Yeah, he's a baby.
He's still young.
I agree. That's why they paid. That's why they guaranteed him the contract.
I get it, but that is.
If this guy comes anything close to what he was in 2020, he's so young, man. The Browns, we're going to be on our way, and he just hasn't been anything near that. And I think it's more mental than anything. First of all, taking that much time off from the game, it'll hurt anybody. What was he away from the game for? Like basically almost 2 years, a year and a half. Was it longer than that? Because he said he wasn't playing for the Texans anymore.
Yeah,
and then he had the
suspension,
the civil lawsuits to deal with that and suspension. I want to say it almost ended up being like a year and a half.
I mean, yeah, and then he's had injuries too. So
he's had injuries. Yeah, so it's that. I think it's that, of course, but also mentally, he doesn't have the same mindset that he once did. Because I think now he's a villain, and now he's hated, and now he is, people they despise him as a person, as a player. And before that, he was the hero. Like, people loved him, and he was beloved by everybody, not only Texans fans, but from Clemson and what he accomplished there, and even in high school, because he was a high school champion there. He was a state champion there as well. I just think he has not really processed being hated and being the villain really well.
So in 2020 is when he threw for close to 5,000 yards, threw for 4,800 yards in that season. Since that season, he's played in 12 games.
Damn.
So he sat out 2021. He played 6 games in 2022. He played 6 games in 2023.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, so we assuming that if he plays more, gets more reps and snaps, that he will get back to 2020. Deshaun?
I mean, I think he get closer to it than he's been.
Do we think it's just snaps? Do we think it's just game time and snaps that he's been missing? Or do we think there's something deeper? I think there's something deeper.
I think there could be too, but I think winning kind of fixes a lot of that too. Yeah,
but to win, he's got to get back to old Deshaun.
Joe Flacco was winning though. Like, it's a Browns.
Flacco was winning. But by the way, that's not helping his psychology, Patrick.
You're right.
That's not help. By the way, that does not help a grown man. Trust me. Ask Carson Wentz. When somebody comes in there that can do your job just as good as you, and you go, "Well, I thought I was the guy that made the difference." Like, no, you're not.
No, you were the not that good quarterback on the Ravens like a decade ago.
Yeah, that is not helping his confidence. Trust me, Deshaun, that did not help his confidence.
No, right? I'm just saying. I think if they do,
you're right, but I'm just saying that ain't helping.
No, I think if they can run the ball, make it a simpler offense, and just win some games, even if they're defensive games, it'll help him get a little bit more back on the right track. But he's got to stay on the field. That's the biggest part. He's got to stay on the field, which, 2022 was a suspension for a lot of it. And then, he got hurt in 2020. You got to stay on the field. And he was able to stay on the field for his first few seasons. Not his first season, but his second, third, and fourth season. He stayed on the field. And then it just hasn't been able to since, for whether it is his own misdoings or injury. And it's just an interesting story going into it. And if you're the Cowboys, you don't want to be the reason he gets his confidence back.
Yeah. No, I want to say basically because that didn't they have like that 2020 season? They had a losing record, right? They were 4-12.
Yes, 4-12.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I remember it all too well. He had arguably, I'm not making this up. Arguably, it was, guys, the greatest season in the history of the NFL for a quarterback on a losing team. And I'll give you an example of it. Only 4 quarterbacks in NFL history have finished a season with more than 4,500 passing yards, more than 30 touchdowns, and fewer than 10 interceptions, and an average of 8.5 yards per pass, right? Met all those criteria. Those were Peyton Manning in 2004, Aaron Rodgers in 2011, Matt Ryan in 2016. Those other teams went 12-4, 15-1, 11-5. The other quarterback is Deshaun Watson in 2020, and he went 4-12. You just don't see quarterbacks who he lost 8 games that season where he threw for 25 or more attempts and had a passer rating of over 100. Never before in NFL history had a quarterback lost more than 5 such games in a season. We had never seen a quarterback on a team that bad play so well. And now he's got talent everywhere around him in Cleveland, and they can't seem to figure it out. So maybe it's just injuries. Maybe he just needs more time. If he ever gets back to 2020 Deshaun, look out. Like, the NFL is in trouble. Like, he's gone.
The yards per average was down. Everything is down when you look at those stats for the last 2 years, even though it's just, everything is down. That is not what you want to see. But if you're a Browns fan, but it'll be interesting to see, now he has the full off season to work out. He says he's coming back healthy. He wants to come play. And, again, Nick Chubb is out right now, still out with injury. So you assume they're going to try and rely somewhat on this passing defense. Passing offense. They just re-signed Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
I don't know now the Cowboys, Dron Bland is out, but you still have Trayvon Diggs coming back. All the reports are he looks good.
Yeah, no, I like the Cowboys defense. Actually, I like the defense. The depth on it is somewhat questionable, but I like the Cowboys defense. Actually, I think there's some good players as their frontline starters. That's going to be an interesting matchup. But we'll see how Deshaun Watson looks this season if he can stay healthy. But yeah, man, that's why they gave him all the money. That's why they guaranteed it to him, because they were thinking at that time all they remember was 2020 Deshaun.
Yeah.
Right, because he decided he wasn't going to play the next season for the Texans, so all they remembered was that Deshaun. They kept thinking,
they thought 2018
top 5 QB,
and 2018 and 2019 they were double-digit win teams.
Yeah, so
he was a winner, and then he was not winning, but his stats are really good. So if we can find that middle,
and it was
ground,
the organization that was dysfunctional, and not him.
And so we find that middle ground where his stats are great and the winning's there. We are going to be great. And then the Browns did what the Browns do and just destroy quarterbacks.
It does seem that way, but I know Deshaun's got some. He got some skeletons in his closet, some things that he had to work on, of course. But I don't know. We'll see if the football player Deshaun Watson can get back to his peak. All right, there you go. So the Cowboys got to deal with that, and there's a little. We got one other little nugget about the Cowboys before we get to Rod's rant, and we'll talk some Texans too. I'll try to balance the scales. But Ian Rappaport, we have this audio patch. Ian Rappaport was on. He was on NFL Network, and he was talking about the Cowboys contract negotiation with Dak Prescott, and his report is claiming that they are not close. Here is what Ian Rappaport had to say.
Talking about holdouts, we've been talking about hold-ins. Dak Prescott, the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, is none of those. He showed up on time. He has practice, but there is a very real open question related to his future. Dak Prescott's agent and the Dallas Cowboys have been in conversations for about a month or so, maybe a little more, at about a potential big-time contract extension that, of course, would make him the highest-paid quarterback in the NFL. My understanding right now is the two sides are not close. The clock is ticking. Of course, he is going to practice. He's going to play the season. There's no questions there. But if a deal that would, of course, make him the highest-paid quarterback in the NFL, highest-paid player in the NFL, if that doesn't get done by Saturday, you really have to wonder, is a deal going to get done at all? The stakes, Rich, are as high as it gets for the Dallas Cowboys. If Prescott, who's a free agent after the season, does not get a deal, then he goes into free agency as the highest profile free agent in NFL history. And then, of course, you have to wonder, would he even return to the Cowboys at that point? It is incumbent on the Cowboys to do a deal sooner rather than later. We will see if they actually.
All right, that's Ian Rappaport. See if the Cowboys get it done. Doesn't seem like right now we're going to get it done, but before the season starts, because we're just, of course, obviously from the Cowboys start of the season, we're just a couple of days away. And I don't know, the way the reports are, at least the way the reports sound, doesn't seem like the Cowboys are going to get that done before the season starts. So, which means week to week, his performance will be directly all right, connected to the conversation about his future and whether he is worth signing. And we still won't have resolution to that until the playoffs, because that's what ultimately matters. It's not even about, as long as Dak makes the playoffs, nobody cares what he does during the regular season. Now, they don't make the playoffs, and whew, we got a whole nother conversation we're happening. I think everybody agrees Cowboys are a playoff team. They make the playoffs, then that's when it's money time for Dak. And I think we broke it down yesterday perfectly. If he makes it past the divisional round, if Diana Rossini's report is correct, because she's claiming that it's the years that is the holdup in the negotiation, that Dak wants a longer term contract, potentially to end his career as a Dallas Cowboy, and the Cowboys, they want a shorter term deal, try to give themselves an out to rebuild or to change the landscape a little bit with the quarterback position if they need to with Dak Prescott. And if he wants a long term deal, which is potentially maybe 6 years, 5-6 years, he's got to get all the way to the Super Bowl. But if he gets past the division round, gets to the NFC title game, maybe he gets the 4-year deal. Maybe he gets, 4 or 5 years. If he gets to past the NFC title game, I think he'll get anything he wants. But if he gets to the NFC title game, past the division round, which Romo couldn't do and Cowboys hadn't done in 20 plus years, I think that's when Dak will get his good 4-year deal. I think Jerry will agree to the number, whatever it is. Jerry will be giddy to do it. But if he wants a long-term deal from Jerry, because Jerry seems pretty stubborn on it, I think he's going to have to get all the way to the big dance, and then Jerry will give it to him. If we're riding this thing all the way out through the season, because if he is free agency, then all bets are off. Because as Ian Rappaport just said, he's going to be the highest profile, highest priced free agent potentially in NFL history. Not potentially, he will be. Just don't see quarterbacks, franchise quarterbacks, hit free agency like that very often. All right, there you go. So it's a little Dak Prescott Cowboys conversation. We come back, we'll get into Rod's rant of the day. We'll discuss Mel Kiper's opinion on Quinn Ewers and this Texas-Michigan game. What's at stake for Quinn Ewers? Does he want to be QB1? If he wants to be QB1 and leapfrog the two top quarterbacks right now in his draft class, Shadur Sanders and Carson Beck, this game, huge. And we'll talk about it when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. It's talking about this Texas-Michigan matchup. Everybody's talking about it. It's the big game of the weekend, and first time that Texas will play Michigan in the regular season. And there's going to be a lot of conversation about Quinn Ewers as well. There should be, because I think the game comes down to how Quinn responds to pressure, figuratively and literally. The pressure that Don Wink Martindale is going to apply, and then the pressure of being in the big house, which, by the way, don't forget his time at Ohio State. So he's actually got some experience
He's been in that visitor's locker room.
In the big house. That's true, but still,
Just saying,
yeah, you're right. That's what I'm saying. That's it. So I know he didn't play or anything like that, but at least he knows, the atmosphere and knows kind of the culture of the fan base a little bit. And I know it's a lot of Ohio State fans have been kind of slipping into some of the Texas Twitter, and they're like, "Hey, go Texas! We're rooting for you, man." That's how deep that hatred is from. Because we didn't get that from Auburn last year. Auburn didn't start getting into Texas Twitter.
Auburn's not good though.
I know that's a good point. That's not good. But in terms of the hatred of the rivalry, like they didn't, they were not invested in. Texas. Think you should beat Alabama. Ohio State fans are invested in this. I've heard them talking about it, like, no, we need Texas to whip them and expose them.
Like, I love. I'm Ron. You and I, and this is I'm clearly not Texas fans, but you and I have always been the one like, no, I want Oklahoma undefeated when we go beat them. Yep. I want to go ruin their season. Yeah, it's like I want them to be really good, so we prove we beat a really good team. I don't want Oklahoma to be just a 12-loss. Well, we beat them, and so did everybody else.
No, some Longhorn fans are like that. They want their rivals to just be humiliated and to be shamed and to just be a dreadful subpar program. I'm like, no, then your rivalry sucks. I actually want Oklahoma to be good. I'm with you. And after, because then our win looks better and the rivalry is better.
Why did the A&M rivalry why is it not as big as the Oklahoma one? Because what we just mentioned. Because one of the teams was not good, and for a long time it was A&M. So we say one of the teams wasn't there, so the rivalry wasn't, because you just never had those games that really mattered, and the Texas Oklahoma game does so much. So I'm just simply stating, if I'm in Ohio State, I'd want Michigan to be good when I played them, because I want to ruin their season.
That's a valid point. You're right. It's a different type.
But
of
I've seen the same thing, because they've been on our text line too.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you. No, and I've seen it on social media. I'm like, interesting. There's some Ohio State fans in here, and they're like, hey man, go burn orange. I'm like, okay. Well, here's what Mel Kiper had to say about Quinn. Former Ohio State Buckeye. So maybe it's just some Quinn love too. But this is what Mel Kiper had to say about Quinn going back to the big house, this time as his third year starting quarterback for the Longhorns against Michigan. He says, quote, "It's a great defense. The Wolverines' high noon kickoff at the big house. What's better than that? You've got three players. You've got Will Johnson, lockdown corner, could be a top 5 pick for Michigan. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, that interior pressure that bothers quarterbacks like no other. Those two kids, Grant and Mason Graham, will be top 10 picks potentially. And then you've got Quinn Ewers. Consistency. A couple of years ago, he's at 58% completion percentage. Last year, it goes up to 69%. But early in the year against Rice, he missed a couple of throws. He's great against Alabama and Tuscaloosa. Leads them to an upset with 3 touchdowns and 350 yards. The next week against Wyoming, he's at 52%. After that, he's at 65% or higher in every regular season game. This is Quinn Ewers' year to maybe reestablish himself as QB1 by the time we get to April. That's the most important part of it. I do believe that he can establish himself as QB1, and big games like this are going to be a huge part of the evaluation. Going up against an NFL defensive coordinator in Don Wink Martindale, and you got multiple NFL players on that defense, some of which will be the top players drafted at their position in the NFL draft. So there'll be tons of NFL scouts there. And what I always tell you, what do NFL scouts want to see from a guy they're thinking about drafting number 1 overall, or a guy they want to draft to be the face of their franchise? They need to see that capability, man. Capability. Put the cape on in a big game, on a big stage, and lead your team to victory. And this game will be a game where Texas leads with the pass. They have no choice but to do it better. They did it versus Colorado State, and Sark does it in all of his big games. Against Alabama last year, first early down, it's her first half. Early game pass rate 56%. Oklahoma around 58%. Hell, the Big 12 title game, it was around 62%. In big games, Sark's going to be, he's going to lead with the pass, especially this year though, and especially against this Michigan team. And so it'll be about how Quinn looks, getting into a rhythm, and also how he handles the pressure. Something I brought up earlier this week. Quinn was only under pressure on against Colorado State on 2 snaps, right? 2 plays, which is really good for him and the offensive line. Average time to throw was around 2.17 seconds. But the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Riri Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but those 2 plays were his worst plays. It was the interception and the sack. So they couldn't apply enough pressure because they're Colorado State. Michigan can apply a lot more pressure.
Mm-hmm.
They can apply 5 to 10 times the pressure that Colorado State did. So if they end up getting, let's say, 15 pressures, that's a reasonable number for a Michigan defense. What's the result of those 15 plays? Is it a bad play for Quinn? Is it a negative play? Is it a sack or an interception on those 15 plays? If 5 of those plays, is it a sack or a negative play or a turnover? Because if it is, on like a third of those plays, a bad play for Quinn, then Michigan may have a shot. But if we see Quinn handle that pressure really well, deliver the football, make timely throws, hell, even throw the ball away rather than see the pressure coming and throw the ball away, just keep his team out of a negative play in those situations, that's what scouts want to see. Because he's been inconsistent in how he handles pressure. But he's great in big games. Like even Mil Kiper said that the last 2 Alabama games, his Pro Football Focus grade, 90, over 90. Like he's been great in the big games because Sark's got him prepared and ready, and Sark leads with the pass in those games. All right. So, and he's in the big game, Oklahoma's game. I know he started out a little shaky last year in the Oklahoma game, but ended the game really good. Started out shaky in the bowl game against Washington, but ended really well. I know a lot of people thought, had a chance to win it all with, if he'd have made a better throw, kind of a paintball or back shoulder fade to A.D. Mitchell on that last throw. But anyway, I digress. But I think he's good in big games. I think he'll be good in this game, but how he handles that pressure, because his pressure to sack rate, hovering around 25% last year. His pressure to sack rate in that game versus Colorado State was 50%. Now he was only pressured twice, but he was sacked once. I mean, so I'm just going to give you the numbers, and that's what I think the scouts want to see. They want to see that number decrease. But his pressure to sack rate in 2022 was 13%. It's pretty good. It was better in 2022 than 2023. Allowed pressure percentage, 14% in 2022, 22% in 2023. How he handles the pressure. Hell, Sports Info Solutions has his sack rate versus pressure, had it last year above upwards of 30%. So did Stats War, actually had it upwards of 30%. That's the number that we need to see addressed, and that's about his pocket presence, which Sark has brought up several times, and about him stepping up in the pocket and buying time and creating space and being a pocket scientist. This is going to be a big game for that, because Wink Martindale, he will create more pressure. And he doesn't have to do it by blitzing. He will blitz. There's no doubt about that. His blitz rate since 2018, third, first in the NFL, sixth. In 2022, it was first. In 2023, it was second. he's coming. It's coming. And Michigan, trust me, they got the dogs and they got the players to be able to execute some of those exotic blitzes. And so we'll see how Quinn handles it. There's no doubt it'll happen. The O-line is not going to block everything perfectly. And some of the pass protection schemes are meant for Quinn to be responsible for the free rusher. Inevitably, that'll create pressure. How you respond to that pressure? Can you step up in the pocket, get deeper into your progressions, feel the pressure, and still get through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, be able to manipulate defenders with your eyes all at the same time? This is that part of that NFL test for Quinn. I can't wait. I know he's up to the task. I can't wait to see him thrive potentially, in in that environment versus the Michigan Wolverines. All right, we come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats on the other side. We got some college football stats, got some NFL stats to share with you, all that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis, a lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to what the facts, what the stats. I guess we'll give you a stat about the game coming up tonight between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. So, how about this stat? This comes from Action Network. So, I'll give them credit for it. For all you folks out there who may be putting some money on the game, you're dabbling a little. Well, how about this? Lamar Jackson as an underdog. He is 13-2 against the spread and 7-0 against the spread since 2021 as an underdog. When Lamar is either a dog or a favorite of less than a field goal. So, dog or favorite of less than a field goal of less than 3 points. He is 16-2 against the spread, covering by 9.6 points per game. The best record of any quarterback. He's good as a dog. Just throwing it out there.
All right. I like that. I like those numbers.
Yeah, he's good as a dog.
Now there is an X factor in this, which is you never bet against Patrick Mahomes. But
Yes, that's usually that's a nice trend to follow. But I think Patrick just hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, because I feel like the
Mahomes,
AFC title game
touched
last
that.
year was one of those did not cover the spread.
Yeah, it had to be one of those.
Just
Right? I don't even
guessing,
remember
right?
what it was, but yeah, no, because and that wasn't that the first. No, I don't know if it was the first, but last year was the first part of the first of their Super Bowl runs where they had to go on the road to do it. The Chiefs did, right? Because they had home field advantage every year that they had those Super Bowl runs prior to last season, and so they had to go on the road and still made so even more remarkable. They did that on the road with a terrible wide receiving room, arguably the worst in the NFL, and shuffling left tackles. Man, Kansas City, it is impressive. All right, how about this? Let's get to this stat. This came from my man Danny Davis of the Austin American Statesman. He claims here in his tweet that he says Texas at Michigan. It will. He said it will be. I'll just read the tweet. He said, "I'm still digging through the record books to confirm, but Texas will likely play in front of the largest crowd in its 131-year history at Michigan this weekend. The DKR attendance record is 105,213. The Longhorns game at Ohio State drew 105,565. And so, yeah. So I haven't looked at the big house capacity, but I'm assuming the big house is bigger than that. At least the capacity is, and we know it's going to be sold out. So,
yeah, I mean,
what was Alabama?
Big house capacity 107,601.
Okay. Yeah, they'll hit that. And there'll be some standing room only stuff. So yeah.
And the largest attendance recorded was a victory over Notre Dame that was at 115.
Damn.
115,000.
That's for Texas?
Was in.
Oh, that's a period.
No, the big house record that they have.
Oh, that's the big house record.
The attendance record in 2013 against Notre Dame. They had 115,109 people.
Okay.
In attendance.
I don't know if they'll break that. That's a lot of folks.
That's a lot of folks.
That's a lot of folks, man. That's pretty wild. Okay, there you go. So Danny Davis says Texas may play in front of the largest crowd they've ever seen. If they eclipse 100 and they get to 106,000, then that'll be the record. So keep your eye out for that. Appreciate Danny Davis with that nice little factoid for what the facts, what the stats. Got another one. Well, I don't know if this is a fact. This may be a rumor more than a fact, so I'll throw it out there for rumor. This is the rumor is that Cooper Manning, that he paid to have the Texas flag fly outside the Graduate Hotel, which is near campus, and people are upset about it. There's some pictures that they are flying a Longhorn flag at the Graduate. So there's some pictures there. The rumor is that the reason that they're flying is there is because Cooper Manning paid some big bucks. He's like, nah, we need a safe space, and these people don't notice the safe space, and that Michigan fans are they're not happy about that. And like that's in their territory. It's too close to home there for the Longhorns. So there you go. That's more rumor than what the facts with the stats, but that's thrown out there too.
What the facts? Yeah, with the stats. What's the rumor?
What the facts for the stats and a little bit of the rumor mill too. Throw that out there. All right. I guess I got a couple of more, but we can share those throughout the show and get back to them. Actually, I got one more for you. How about this? One more, because Caleb Williams is going to make his debut for the Chicago Bears. The Bears, since 1970, there have been 27 quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall. In their first start, they are 4-22-1. Straight up, and 7-20 against the spread. So bet accordingly. And they play.
This is the new era, right?
This is the new era, and the Bears are 4-point favorites versus the Titans. 4-point favorites. Titans got that new look defense.
I know. If I'm Caleb Williams, that's not who I want to play in my first.
Agreed.
That is not the defense I want to see in my first. My first NFL game is this weird defense. Mm-hmm. That has 4 defensive linemen on the roster.
I agree with you. That's a great point, because we've been talking about all offseason. They're doing something funky in Tennessee.
It's weird. They had 4 defensive linemen, 4 DBs, or in that 53 man, and they had a bunch of safeties and a bunch of linebackers.
Yeah, they want to be multiple. They're going to be moving things around. They got Quandre, who can play any position in secondary. They got Jamal Adams there now, who's a hybrid linebacker / safety. They got the best bump and run corner in the NFL, L'Jarius Sneed. They got the biggest D tackle in the league in Devondre Sweat. They got some pieces, man.
They
Some
got that
freaky, weird pieces,
linebacker
too.
from the Rams. They traded for him too.
Yes, they just got him. That's a great point. I forgot all about that. No, I actually like the Titans defense, which
I'm
I don't
excited to
like.
see it.
I'm a
I don't know if
Texans
I
fan.
like it. I'm excited to see it. I want to
I
see what
like
it
it.
does.
I'm excited, but I like it. I think it might. I don't know. I think it might work in today's NFL. That's building your one of your building blocks being multiplicity and versatility.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea. That's what Dan Quinn's done on his defense. That's what Shanahan's done on offense. If you do it right, you gotta do it right though.
They
That's
got
what
3
we learned.
Longhorns on that team, so on that defense.
Oh, that's right. Kendrick Coburn's there. Too,
Keandre
isn't he?
Coburn's there. He's one of the 4 defensive
Coburn.
linemen.
So they got 40 defensive linemen and 2 of them are Longhorns.
Yes.
That's what you're telling me. Okay. Hey, I'll take that. I'll take it. I like that. I like those numbers. All right, we come back. We'll get into the big matchup tonight, of course. Kansas City taking on Baltimore. We'll preview that matchup a little bit. Of course, we're still talking Texas versus Michigan. We'll get into the trends to win. These trends are actually tracked all across college football, but I think they apply to this Texas-Michigan matchup specifically as well. So we'll get to that, and we'll also go behind the burnt orange curtain, talk some more Texas football, all of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast, and that's when my co-host Patrick the Idealionaire, he comes up with a very creative theme, usually inspired by a anniversary or inspired by a particular event, and that event that's inspiring him right now is the Texas-Michigan game coming up this weekend. So to get us ready for that great matchup between Texas and Michigan, he is celebrating Michigan musicians, and all the songs on a new theme Thursday are from Michigan musicians. Man, good stuff. Man, Michigan's got a lot of great. I didn't realize Michigan's part
Aretha
of,
was
I know
found.
Motown, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
man,
Aretha was found in a church in Detroit. That's where she was discovered.
but yeah, you're not even playing any Motown stuff. It's
No,
just
no.
Michigan music. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a lot of Motown. So I was like,
No.
not even hearing that much Motown.
Because some of the
great
Motown
Michigan
stuff
musicians.
they broke out of Detroit, but they're not, or broke out of Motown, but they weren't
But
necessarily.
they're not from Detroit.
They're not like
from
they're not.
Michigan.
Yeah, they weren't discovered there. They weren't coming from there. It's like
That was
Bob
just a
Seger's from
record
there.
label. Yeah.
Stevie Wonder was born in Saginaw, Michigan.
That's wild.
Aretha Franklin was
Didn't realize
discovered in the churches in Detroit.
that. Man, Michigan might be, if you did this as a contest with every state, Michigan would
Michigan
have
would be up
some
there.
of the
Michigan
greats.
would be up there.
If you had,
Texas,
the
Texas got a
best
lot of good ones
musicians
too.
from every state. Yeah,
But yeah,
That's
Michigan's
wild.
got a lot of good musicians.
Huh.
It was
Okay.
difficult to go through and pair because sometimes when you're trying to find song or like themes or something like this, you're like, all right, last one's gonna be this iffy band. This one was like, I'm knocking off bands that I personally really like, and had to kind of knock them off the list because they were never.
No, that's good. It's educational because I did not realize some of these iconic artists were from Michigan. So there you go. All right. So I appreciate Patrick hooking us up there for the new theme of the new theme Thursday. Also, he hooks us up with a great conversation starter for the topic for the big fat poll of the day. Patrick, inform the folks what the topic is for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. How many rushing yards will Michigan have against Texas? Right now leading the way 100 to 150. Rod's on Rod's path 150. We got 25% says 150 to 200. Not unbelievable. It's a number they could go to, especially if they're not able to throw the ball at all and they just have to keep running. They're going to pick up some yards there. And then 11% says 0 to 100, and looks like we got a vote or two for 200 plus.
200 plus. Ooh, they get 200 plus. Those must be Michigan fans because I think the chance of Texas winning the game drop, precipitously if Michigan's got 200 yards.
We all know we have Texas fans who are not necessarily sold on anything that Texas does, and then when they win the title, they go, "Lucky break."
No, you're right. You know what? I understand some Longhorn fans. They look for the doom and gloom now. It's almost like things are going too well. Like because they had the trauma of the last 10 plus years or so for Texas, almost 15 years. So I get that. I get it. So that's got to be programmed out now in the Sark era. That's on Sark because if you get consistency, which you've gotten from Sark, the trajectory of the team has been a linear one, and that helps. Right? The Tom Herman thing was hard to invest in because he came in 2017, 2018, we're back, and you went, all right, yeah, here we go. And then 2019, you went, what the hell was that? Hold up, did we regress? We regressed? And so the regression makes it tough for people to commit emotionally to, the positivity and being optimistic, glass half full. They have that opinion. I think right now that's most Longhorn fans because they trust the linear projection trajectory of the program that, hey, started 5-7. That was horrible. And I told you guys, no excuse for you to ever be 5-7 at Texas. I don't give a damn how bad the team is. There ain't no excuse for it. But got the improvement to year 2, got the much more improved in year 3. And it seems like the team is going to now hard to win more than 11 games, but it seems like this is going to be a double-digit win team. And the standard is to play for championships, and it seems like they will, even if it's not the SEC title game, which I think Longhorn fans would prefer, you'll be playing for a championship in the college football playoff, and that's playing for a championship. And like I said, you can debate on what the standard is. The standard is the standard, but the standard is to be playing for championships, damn it. And if you get in the college football playoff, you're playing for a championship. You got a shot. Last year they did. Played for a Big 12, won a Big 12 title, played for a championship. That's what it's about, a Texas championship. So I think ultimately that's why most people are glass half full about what they see from Texas and what Sark has built. Yeah. Because, Tom, I remember to win 2018 was a great year. But then That 2019 season, I think Longhorn fans like, oh look, that I see some cracks, man. Something's going on here.
Yeah.
Then he lost the locker room and all that kind of stuff. But with Sark, it does seem like you got fewer stories about a toxic culture, no stories about a toxic culture. I guess the first season there was some weird stuff.
There's some weird stuff,
and they were UTMZ, as my man CB used to call them.
And I do get sent enough stuff, and we get on the text line and whatever else of clickbait articles.
Yes, there's rumors. I know there are rumors.
That's good. And again, one for everybody. No, nothing I've heard from anyone I know at the Texas, and I think Rocky would say the same. Is anybody worried about Arch Manning and being part of this team and all that? Stop sending and stop asking that question. Again, he had a good game. That's other people talking about it. It's not Texas.
Yep. That is true. That is bad. You're right. That is. I still see memes about it and
Arch Manning scored a touchdown. Well, locker room controversy. You're like, what locker room? Yours?
I agree. Like I don't know why the national media won't just give up on that, because they get at this point nobody has substantiated anything. Nobody from the local media.
The rumor you just told. The rumor you just told was that Arch's dad was paying money to taunt Michigan fans.
Yes, that's a rumor, but I don't know. A lot of people were saying that, but hey. If it is true, it's not like it would be something that would disgrace the name or anything like that. I think local fans would actually like that. I think it's kind of cool. The Mannings, they're throwing their weight around for the Longhorn brand. Those are two great brands. You combine them, and that's why people are happy and giddy about the Manning thing.
And we do know Cooper was going to plan to come to Texas too.
Yes, that
was the other rumor.
Yes, that's the other rumor. Yeah, and another rumor was that at one point, Mac was deciding between trying to get Eli at one point.
Yeah, but it was the original was that he was going to get Cooper, and then Peyton was going to follow Cooper.
Yep.
And then the injury to Cooper, and so it all kind of falls apart.
Yeah, and then you still get Arch.
Yeah.
So you still kind of win in the end. Yeah, you still got one of them. I mean,
but
who's going to get all the Mannings? Yeah. Hey, I love that. Like I said, we like to state it is rumor.
It is,
even though. Some people choose to believe it and it becomes like legend and folklore and everything around it. But yeah, it is a little bit of rumor. All right, let's get first to the headlines, and then we will come back and discuss the matchup tonight to kick off the NFL season. Ravens and the Chiefs. We'll come back and talk about that. But first, my man Patrick, let's get updated, informed, and educated with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros were never able to get out of the gates against the Reds last night, allowing 9 runs in the first inning and losing 12-5. The Astros will try to forget about the bad loss as they finish the series today, sending Hunter Brown to the mound. And the Rangers won their series with the Yankees with a 10-6 win yesterday. Wyatt Langford had another big night with 3 hits, 3 runs, and 2 RBIs while also making an above-the-wall catch, robbing a home run to end the game in the 9th. Nathan Eovaldi pitched 7 innings, allowing 2 runs and striking out 6 in the game, picking up his 11th win of the season. The Rangers now begin a 4-game series with the Angels, with Cody Bradford getting the start tonight. And in the NFL, the Ravens and Chiefs kick off the NFL season tonight on NBC. The rematch of the AFC title game from last season brings a debut of Derrick Henry of the Ravens and Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs as the two teams battle for early control of the AFC. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines there. The Chiefs are 9-2 in season openers under Andy Reid. Andy Reid with extra time to prepare. Now with Patrick Mahomes, 9-2 in season openers under Andy Reid. And they are tied for the best week 1 record in the NFL over that time span. Ravens 1-4 with Lamar Jackson as their starter against the Chiefs. So, yeah, I mean, everybody's got to figure out a way to get over that Mahomes hump, right? You got to figure out a way as a team. I mean, that's your goal. For the Texans, for the Bengals, for the Ravens. What's your plan? What's your, blueprint to beat them based on the resources you have and your identity and your brand of football you play? the thing that makes this matchup really compelling is that Patrick Mahomes last year had his worst season as a passer, as a starter last season, and Lamar Jackson had his best season. Here's a Patrick Mahomes, and he still won. This is how good Patrick Mahomes is. He still won a Super Bowl basically with a dink and dunk offense, with no verticality, and arguably the worst wide receiving group in the league. They had 44 drop passes, more than any team in the league, and we know the wide receiving group was. They struggled to create separation. They would just say lackluster group overall. And now you've upgraded, right? You upgraded with Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, dealing with the injuries, but he'll be back. And Rashee Rice, once he doesn't have to deal with the distractions of his off the field issues, Rashee Rice can function as a number one. But we know Travis Kelce is really the true number one. But last year, so now you got a receiver upgrade. That's the scary part, because last year they won a Super Bowl with these being the low lights, if you will, for Patrick Mahomes. He threw a career high 14 interceptions, career lows in touchdown rate, yards per pass attempt, yards per completion, and career lows in passing yards per game. He averaged, if you go look at it, on passes 10 yards or more down the field. He had his lowest passing volume of his career. He was 28th in the NFL in rating on those passes. He completed just 46% of those passes with 2 touchdowns and 9 interceptions of 10 yards or more. It's amazing. They did all their damage within like 10 to 12 yards. His average touchdown pass was less than the average of his touchdown pass last year was less than 5 yards. It's amazing the damage he did without the deep ball, without the verticality, and without the wide receiving core. Worst season he's ever had. That's gonna change. Like that'll immediately change with this wide receiving core. And essentially, the Xavier Worthy is not gonna be the number one guy. Like that's Travis Kelce, and then Rashee Rice actually is the number one wide receiver for them. But the conundrum that he presents to a defense, they're gonna send him deep on a lot of routes based on what I've seen in the preseason. And I'll give you the numbers. He went deep a lot. Like they sent him on a lot of vertical deep routes, scored and caught explosive receptions on a few of those in the preseason. So essentially, they're going to continue to do that and offer you the choice as a defense. You can either decide, all right, Xavier Worthy, we got to give our DB help on him deep because he's the fastest human being in the history of the NFL combine, and we don't need that 4.21 speed to be matched up one-on-one. So we'll put a safety at the top. If you do that, then you're going to give up a lot of yards to Travis Kelce, working the short intermediate area. So the best quarterback receiver chemistry in the NFL, you got to deal with that. Or you got to deal with Rashee Rice as a true number one for them. And are you just going to leave their number one receiver one-on-one with whoever that defensive back is? So how are you going to allocate your resources? You're going to roll coverage or put a safety on top of Rashee Rice? You're going to bracket Travis Kelce? Or you're going to put a safety over the top of and roll coverage to Xavier Worthy because of his speed? Because you can't do all three. You can't. It's a numbers game, and football won't allow you to. You need a 12th and a 13th man to do all three. With 11 players, you can't do all that. And in addition to that, the box is going to be light because you got to have your safeties back to defend all those weapons. You ain't stacking the box. So now Pacheco and Carson Steele, the new young running back, they run against light boxes all day, every day. And Patrick Mahomes looks and goes, all right, we got the numbers advantage in the box. All right, guys, we're checking to a run play. Check to a run play. We're going to work smarter, not harder here. All right, we're just going to hand it off. And we'll take the 5 yards that way. It's, like I said, the offense they're building is scary. And the fact that they won the Super Bowl last year with the worst wide receiving corner in the league. And here's another factor what I found just researching, because this three-peat that they're about to accomplish or trying to accomplish is fascinating to me. Fascinating. So I've been finding out these factoids about the Kansas City Chiefs, and what the conclusion I've come to is that we have not seen like the best version of the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback yet. We have yet to see like the best version of it. And I believe at one point we will. This season possibly could be that best version of that. Spagnuolo just got himself a top 10 defense. He's just built it, and Spags is awesome. Last year, that defense was hovering around being a top 10 defense in the league. First time Patrick Mahomes has, had access to had support of a defense like that. But here's the factor that I found that was just downright scary. In every Super Bowl that Patrick Mahomes has played in, he's had a different starting left tackle. They've started a different left tackle in all 4 of Mahomes' Super Bowls. It was Eric Fisher in 2019, Mike Remmers when Fisher was injured in 2020, Orlando Brown Jr. in 2022. It was Donovan Smith last year, and he's gone. And now it's going to be Kingsley Suamataya from BYU. That's unbelievable. Like that's some people say that's the second most important position in football. And this dude doesn't need a steady one or a consistent one. Just give me a guy that can just give me a body over there. It would be all right.
Give me someone
What
who's
about
good
wide
enough.
receivers? Yeah,
We don't need to build up. We don't need to have. He doesn't need to know where I'm going to be. He doesn't need to know, get down to where he feels comfortable and I feel comfortable with him. I don't need that comfort level. I mean, we've talked about it plenty of times. Is his, comfort level in the pocket and his sack avoidance, and how many plays have you seen Patrick Mahomes where you go, well, that's a sack, and then he just runs out the other side and throws the ball to Travis Kelce and it goes for 40, and you're like, how did you get out of that? And that's what he can do. So he kind of says, you know what, whatever. Well, left tackle, wide receiver, the 2 probably most important, probably most expensive positions on the offense beside quarterback.
And he doesn't even.
And don't pay either one of them. Don't pay him.
They won a Super Bowl without really elite players at either one of those positions. They just need him. It's fascinating. So that's what's kind of scary about what they're doing too. The defense, they didn't lose L'Jarius Sneed, but I mean they really did do a good job of drafting DBs, and they're gonna move McDuffie out there. I remember at one point they had Travarius Ward. Remember they had him for a while, and then he ends up signing with San Francisco. But hell, he was a Chief first. They didn't pay him. He left after 4 seasons. And L'Jarius Sneed, they had him. They drafted him, and he left. So they don't want to pay DBs. And nobody wants to pay DBs really. And they don't want to pay DBs, but they draft them pretty damn good because McDuffie's a beast. Like he really is. Like he's moving from the slot to the outside. So that's what's kind of scary. And I'll say this too. This is something a little factoid I found about looking up the Chiefs and thinking about their three-peat, because the history is against them. I mean, of course, nobody's ever had a three-peat in the Super Bowl era, but nobody's even nobody who's repeated, and none of the repeat Super Bowl champions have even gotten back to the Super Bowl, guys. The previous 8 teams to repeat as Super Bowl champions, none of them even made it to the Super Bowl when they had a chance to three-peat. And for Kansas City, things are supposed to be working against you here, but right now I don't see anybody that's going to stop them. That's why the Ravens game is important, because the Ravens are one of those teams that they're supposed to have the firepower to at least have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, you look right now, it's supposed to be the Ravens. I don't know if the Bills are still there. The Bengals are there, and the Texans, I feel, are the teams that you feel have the firepower of weapons to be able to, if they can put it all together and get extreme play. And I get when we throw in the Texans, the haters will say, but I'm just saying firepower wise. If you look at what CJ Stroud did historically in his first season, they have 3 great wide receivers right now. You have, you trade for a running back. You have defensive players you added to that roster. So I think that those are the teams that have the firepower. We know the Bengals do because they've done it before. Mm-hmm. And then you figure the Ravens are in that discussion. And, as much as it is a long season, you want to see the Ravens come out with that urgency tonight to not let a team who probably has zero urgency, probably doesn't really, but just they're that good, come out and beat you when you understand we have to set the tone. We have to beat this Chiefs team. We have to set our season off on the right foot because we have to dismantle this. This is our responsibility to the NFL to dismantle this team. And that's what the Bengals and Texans also have that mindset of. This is our responsibility to not let this happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Bills already screwed up by letting them get Xavier Worthy. Like, so you already made it tough on everybody else, damn it. But yeah, it's scary thought. Like I said, the scary thought is that if this defense is truly going to continue to be a top 10 defense, I was looking at, how about this little nugget? Tom Brady and Joe Montana, right? They combined for 11 Super Bowl rings, GOAT and GOAT. Neither one of them won a single ring without essentially a top defense. Was considered kind of a top 10, top 12 defense. Mahomes has done it twice already. And last year was the first time. So that's kind of what I'm looking at too. If this defense picks up where it left off last year, that could be trouble for people trying to thwart the three-peat. Say that 5 times fast, of the Kansas City Chiefs. But on the other side, with Lamar Jackson, and I pointed this out too, he had his best season as a passer ever. In that Todd Monken air raid-ish offense, he had his best season that we've ever seen as a passer that we've seen from Lamar Jackson. He had career highs in completion percentage, yards per pass attempt, yards per completion was the highest since his rookie year. He won the MVP because of that. So he won the MVP as a dynamic weapon at quarterback when he won his first one. And this time, I think he won it actually from the pocket. And a lot of people, he dispelled a lot of the notions and beliefs that he could not win from the pocket. And he won from the pocket. Now, here's the problem. In the AFC title game, which is a rematch of, they were overly reliant on him as a pocket passer. They dropped back to pass on 80.7% of their plays in the AFC title game. That was a season high, by the way, of course. They ran just 8 times without Lamar Jackson in that game. Crazy. And the Chiefs defense actually was one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. It was a top 10 pass defense. They were a bottom 10 rushing defense. And yet, I don't know why the Ravens decided they want to go against their strength rather than running the football. And we know the Ravens can run the football, but they switched to a more, like I said, an air raid-ish, that Todd Monken spread attack, which I thought was a good idea, but still the more common sense approach in that matchup would have been to have some more balance and to run the football, attack their weakness. They didn't do that. And also were easily, they played into Steve Spagnuolo's game plan. Steve Spagnuolo, every time he plays Lamar Jackson, he blitzes a lot. His blitz rates are much higher than they usually are when he goes up against the Ravens. He blitzed Lamar Jackson 44% of the time in the AFC title game, second highest rate in a game last season. Their season blitz rate was around 29%, so much higher in the AFC title game. In the 4 games against Lamar Jackson, Spagnuolo with Kansas City has blitzed close to 39% of the time. His base rate, like I said, is around, he's at 28% in that time span in terms of his base rate of blitz. So he's going to blitz Lamar Jackson because he always does, and it always works. And Lamar Jackson's completing 51% of his passes for 6.7 yards per attempt and only 2 touchdowns in those games where Spagnuolo is blitzing the you-know-what out of him. And the Chiefs, their pass defense last year, they were stingy, man. Okay, they were, if you look at the pass defense, now they had L'Jarius Sneed, so they had the best bump and run corner along with McDuffie, but that's why they were able to stifle the 49ers, man. I saw that in person. Debo couldn't create separation on them. Brandon Ayuk didn't create much separation against that group, and they were playing aggressive bump and run coverage, making plays down the field. So we'll see if that continues with the array of receivers that the Baltimore Ravens will present. We'll see if that stands, but that is going to be a really good matchup tonight, and we'll see if the Kansas City Chiefs bring back the deep ball. They bring it back. They've been throwing it out in preseason. They didn't have it last year. Xavier Worthy is supposed to bring back the deep ball. We'll see if that's the case. All right, we come back. We'll get to some Texas-Michigan conversation, go behind the burnt orange curtain, continue to preview that matchup. There are certain stats, certain metrics, certain keys that overwhelmingly lead you to success on the football field and have a really high win rate, a really high rate of correlating, I should say, to wins on the football field. And we'll talk about that when we come back. And I think in this Texas-Michigan game, these specific metrics would apply. Matter of fact, they may even be magnified. So we'll dive into that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation, talking about the Texas-Michigan matchup. It is the big matchup of the weekend, and we've been breaking it down all week long. And I don't know if we missed any angles here in this matchup, but a couple of things that I do want to talk about that could, obviously shift the balance of power in this matchup. Turnovers is one of those things, and both teams, I believe, got one that both teams definitely won the turnover margin in week one, but both teams got interceptions, 2 interceptions in week one. Michigan got 2 against Fresno State. Texas got 2 against Colorado State. and I believe both had an interception too. So you had Texas, who Quinn Ewers had the interception when he was trying to throw the football away, ended up being a deflected pass. And Michigan, they won the turnover margin 2-1 as well in their matchup against Fresno State. That's something in this game that could play a huge role if there are turnovers. I'm knocking on wood here. Remember in the Texas Washington game, Texas fumbled in that third quarter. That basically shifted the entire game. Texas didn't have many possessions in that third quarter either, but those two fumbles were huge. All right. And, the other game Texas lost against Oklahoma, turnovers early, and Texas recovered, and Quinn recovered and played well, but the turnovers did cost you. They always will. There's a price to be paid for turnovers. And sometimes sometimes you can still win the game while paying that cost. But it will be a hefty price to pay, especially if you're on the road in Michigan. So turnovers are going to be big in this matchup. Got to take care of the football. Ball security is going to be big. And in Quinn, we talked about it, how he handles the pressure against Colorado State. The interception came while he was under pressure. Their one sack came when he was under pressure, only 2 times, but still how he responds to that, because Wink Martindale is going to bring a lot of pressure. I would say he's going to have at least 15 snaps where he drops back, where he's going to be under pressure. Maybe, between 12 and 15, somewhere around there. And he's got to make the right decision in those moments. And if he makes the wrong decision or, has a lapse in judgment in those moments, that really could flip the game, because that's when he's going to be most turnover prone. And I went and looked at it last year. I mean, Michigan was one of the more opportunistic defenses in the country. Now, they had some different pieces on this defense, but still a lot of pieces come back, like Will Johnson and Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Last year, Michigan, in terms of takeaways, 27, only 3 teams in the country had more takeaways than Michigan in 2023. Interceptions, they were third. Only 2 teams had more interceptions than the 18 they had last season. And if you go look at overall the turnover margin, they led the country in turnover margin. That was big. That's their style of play. Right? They want to, run the football. They take a ton of time in between snaps. Matter of fact, I believe they're 130th in the country. If you look at seconds between snaps, they take a long time. They're milking the clock. They got really good special teams, helps them win some hidden yardage and field position, and they have a really good defense. So they get a lot of favorable field position with their defense, stopping you deep in your own territory. You got a punt, special teams, gives them more hidden yardage. Then they get favorable field position for their offense, which is not prolific. It's not dynamic. Doesn't have a effective, efficient downfield passing attack. Last game versus Fresno State, throwing passes 10 yards or more, they were 1 of 5 for 10 yards and 1 interception for Davis Warren. And that's really, and I know they'll probably be better than that, but they don't have a high level passing attack. And by the way, that's not what they want to do, and that's not what they specialize in. It's not their expertise. Their expertise is the power running game and playing bully ball and power football. A fist fight in a phone booth is ultimately what Michigan wants. And they can win that fist fight. They're used to it. They're used to mucking up the game and winning ugly. And if you're Texas, you can't fall into that. But I think ultimately, just if you're Texas, taking care of the football is going to be big. I was pointing out the trends in those trends to win that I pointed out earlier in the show in the first hour. And just from weeks 1 through 0. All right. So you've only had week 0 and week 1 so far this college football season. And here are the numbers for the teams that win the turnover margin, win turnovers, over 70% win percentage in weeks 0 through 1. If you want to extrapolate that since 2022, teams that win the turnover margin, they win the game 74% of the time. Since 2022, win the turnover margin, it's a really good chance you're going to win the game. Another thing I think it's going to be pivotal in this game is explosive plays, because Michigan is just not an explosive offense. But their defense is, obviously really good defense and good at limiting explosive plays. How many explosive plays can Texas get? It's going to be hard for Texas to march the length of the field, in my opinion, on Michigan consistently, because I don't know if they'll be able to run the football. Like, when they want to. I think they'll have a symbolic run game, but this Michigan defensive front is tough. And those Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and Josiah Walker, those guys are Josiah Stewart. Those guys are really, really good players on the defensive line. I mean, those are NFL players on the defensive line. And Josiah Stewart last week was a monster in that Fresno State game. 4 pressures and 2 sacks. He was a beast. So I don't know if they'll run the ball consistently. So you're gonna be dependent on explosive plays, right? To help you to be able to move the football, get some chunk yardage plays. I'll go all the way back to the late great Bill Walsh from his book Finding the Winning Edge, I believe was the name of it. And in that book, Finding the Winning Edge, he claimed off his research, and I think it's still relevant today. You win the explosive play margin by 1 play, then you'll win the game 60% of the time. You win it by 2 or more plays, then you'll win the game 80% of the time. 80 to 85% of the time if you win the explosive play margin by 2 or more plays. If you're Texas, that's going to be key, because Michigan, I pointed this out earlier, they only had 10 plays of 10 plus yards versus Fresno State. That's not bad, but it's not impressive either. 4 of those plays were target receptions by the tight end. They had 4 rushing plays of 10 plus yards, 6 passing plays of 10 plus yards. 4 of those 6 passing plays went to the tight end. They had 2 20 plus yard plays, period, in the game versus Fresno State, and one of them was to the tight end. So to me, it's stop the run, neutralize the tight end, all right, shut down the tight end, and then they will be grasping at straws trying to figure out exactly how they're going to move the football. Now, Texas, on the other hand, had 21 10-plus yard plays and 7 plays of 20-plus yards against Colorado State. So I think if Texas can, just get some explosive plays, and I think the way you get them is you got to spread Michigan out. They got Will Johnson. Will Johnson is a stud, might be the best corner in college football, but hell, man, they ain't got 5, 6 Will Johnsons out there. There's a matchup advantage for Texas. You just got to stress them enough formationally to find it. And I would go, even going back to the Colorado State game and going back to some of the stuff that we've talked about, if I'm Texas and you're looking at the most explosive elements of your offense, you need to identify the most explosive elements of your offense. And, essentially, if you're Sark, I would rep them over and over again in different ways, different presentations. Empty formation, for example, which we've talked about in Austin. You were great in empty formation versus Colorado State. Your explosive play rate was, above 60% when you ran empty. Did you run it a lot? No, but think about those returns and extrapolate that, because they couldn't line up against empty. There's going to be a linebacker that's at a matchup disadvantage or that you can exploit, or a safety you can exploit. Hell, they had a lot of turnover in their secondary, including losing Rod Moore in training camp, who's a starting safety for them. So that's something I think Texas can exploit. If they can do it against Alabama, they can do it against Michigan. I would the pony package, not necessarily to the run, because I don't think you can run against Michigan that well, and you didn't run really well in the pony package versus Colorado State. Matter of fact, you had negative rushing yards out of that pony package, but throwing the football, you average over 10 yards per attempt, like you always do, out of the pony package, and your explosive play rate was above 30% explosive play rate. And these, as you guys know, are the same concepts that I've been tracking for years that have remained explosive for Sark. Targets to motion, you had 5 of them in the game versus Colorado State, and 2 of them resulted in explosive plays. Now, you'll be going against a better opponent, but I've been tracking that, and that is an explosive element that has tracked the last 3 years under Sark. So it works. 60% of the time, it works every time. And if you want to win the explosive play margin against Michigan, you need to be stubborn and be bullish on certain concepts that are disproportionately more successful and more explosive than others. And that's just a few of them. Sark's got more up his sleeve, I assure you. I would break out the 10 personnel package. The red package I always talk about that he had at Alabama, 4 wide receiver package. You just need things that are going to stress out the defense formationally so that you can identify where the weak spots are. And you can do that with a lot of spread sets. Now, Michigan will have a plan for it. They face Ohio State, so they're used to dealing with a team that spreads you out with a lot of speed, NFL caliber quarterbacks, NFL caliber wide receivers. It's not foreign to them, but I think that's how you beat them, in my opinion. That's how you're going to beat this Michigan squad. All right. Another thing, because that's explosive play margin. So I think that's another thing I'd pay attention to. And this is something that I've been trying to dive deeper into. There's not a ton of research on it. But we do have the numbers, and the numbers are just fascinating to me because I broke this out maybe like a couple of months ago talking about the NFL because I saw the stat that teams in the NFL the last 10 years who score first in any capacity, right? They just score first in the game, that they have a 64% win percentage. And I was like, man, that's a pretty high number. Hard to ignore that number because it's like, oh man, teams who score first, that winning over 60% of the time, nearly 65% of the time, maybe it's something worth diving into. So I started to do some numbers and then found this number for college. So I was like, well, maybe it's an NFL thing. Let me see if that number sticks in college too. And in college, at least this year, weeks 0 and 1, teams that score first, 82% win percentage. And then if we go back and look at 2022, since 2022, teams that score first, 68% win percentage. And it's just I'm not even saying I don't even know why. Like I haven't done. I think more it's a confidence thing than anything. So I haven't done the deep dive on the situations, like if they got the ball first, or if they deferred, or if it was a defensive if it was a non-offensive touchdown. I haven't done how many were field goals. I haven't done that research. That's just kind of the raw number. But I think scoring first for Texas is going to be big in the game in terms of confidence, momentum, shutting that crowd up, putting Michigan in a compromising position they don't want to be in, which is playing catch up and trying to, because we know a run is coming for Texas. At one point, they know it's coming too. And if you allow Texas to get on the board early with confidence, I think that could, obviously work against Michigan. Could work against Texas too. If Michigan gets on the board early, that could work against Texas. But I think Texas has a better chance of battling back from a deficit versus Michigan than Michigan does, because Michigan doesn't have a vertical passing game. And they don't really pride themselves on that either. They pride themselves on getting, churning, and grinding a game out, playing football in the phone booth, and, essentially grinding you into submission with that power running game and imposing their will on you. And if they get a lead, they're just going to grind out the clock. They're not trying to stack points on you and get a block. Sark will go on a run and stack points on you. Could end up, basically separating from you by double digits pretty easily. Michigan's offense is not built that way. And when they get a lead, they'll just try to milk the clock. And like I said, take a lot of time in between possessions. That's one thing Sark didn't have to worry about. If you have explosive plays, time possession doesn't matter. They can milk it all they want to, but if you're getting chunk yardage plays quickly and often, that's one of those things that, yes, they can still have it their way and have time possession, and you can still end up having Texas having the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, you can use their time of possession against them if you go on that run. I say again, if you go on that run in the first half and you basically get the ball 4 times in the first half, that's it, and you score on 3 of them, and they score on 1, then going into halftime, they're like, crap, we can't keep doing this because we just won't get the ball enough times to be able to beat them now.
Yep.
And so if you can just take advantage of your scores, it makes them have to break what they want to do. And I think putting either one of these quarterbacks into a position where they're going to have to go faster is going to throw them off, because that's all they've been trying to do is go slow and set their own pace.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And, one thing that I agree, I think Texas should go a little up tempo too at times, just to wear out that D line.
Yeah.
Just so, because they play those D tackles a lot. Those guys Texas D tackles were rotating and probably played 25 snaps, somewhere around there when they were heavy in their rotation last year. Those guys were playing like 40 snaps.
Yeah.
Those guys are playing a lot. So if I'm sorry, I want to wear them down a little bit, get them going east and west, and see if maybe that's a way later on in the game you'd be able to get some success pounding the rock inside.
And that's one of those unstated things of where when you're saying you're running the ball and you're only getting 2 yards, 3 yards a carry, and it's not really being effective, part of the reason you want to continue to do that, is to wear on those defensive linemen, because if you're giving nothing else, you're letting your offensive linemen start to lean on them as opposed to the other way around. And you just let them be able to push them back a little bit more and just wear on them a little bit more. And even if they're winning those, it's pushing them and wearing them out a little bit more, just running the ball.
Yeah, we don't talk about that enough, but offensive linemen, it helps for them to run the ball just to establish, because they face these guys, like I said, 25, 30 snaps in a game.
Yeah.
So that they can be the aggressor.
Exactly.
Because if they're pass blocking, they're not the aggressor. They're waiting to kind of catch these guys, or they're backing up, and that's why RPO stuff is a little bit different. Play action is a little bit different. But if you're passing too much, then you're always reacting to the defense. Sometimes you just want to run the rock so to give your offensive lineman a chance to be the aggressor and go pop somebody.
Just think of that Jarrett Gibson touchdown where Cam Williams just abuses his defender and turns around and grabs Jarrett Gibson and pulls him in the end zone.
Exactly.
And you just go, let him go have that play. And even if it is only 3 yards you're getting, at least let some of these guys win some of these battles. Because when you're on offensive, when you're playing a passing blocking, it's just way, you're not going to get, even if you win, you they keep the guy in front of you, but you're having to back up. You're having to stay on your toes. It's just a much different approach. So you're going to run the ball just solely in the fact of, again, wearing them down.
Yep, I agree with that. Wearing them down and being the aggressor, making sure you're keeping that attack mindset, especially for your offensive lineman. All right, good stuff there. We come back. We got off the record. This is a strange story. Hope it's nothing to this. Hope it's much ado about nothing. All right, we'll get back to that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Low and Rod Beavers coming back right here on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Got a couple of stories here that I want to get to. So, all right, so there's an update in the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelsey love the saga that we've been following here. Apparently, a document was leaked. And I don't know if you've heard about this. There's a document that was leaked that have some people jumping to the conclusion or believing that the Travis Kelsey Taylor Swift relationship was fake. So here's the breakdown. I got it from TMZ, pretty reliable source. An alleged comprehensive media plan from the NFL his star reps full scope public relations firm made the rounds online Tuesday night, seemingly suggesting Travis and Taylor's love story was all fabricated for press, and that there was even a plan to break up on September 28th of this year. It was a one sheet that went viral online. A lot of the Swifties picked up on it, and now a spokesman from Full Scope has had to come out and deny the alleged plan from the viral document, telling TMZ the document is entirely false and fabricated and was not created, issued, or authorized by their public relations agency. So the thing that got people, because it was just a regular document about how they would handle public events and everything, but then actually in one part of the document it had the date they would break up and when it would be announced.
But what made people believe this was even remotely real?
The Swifties. So
there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. Then somebody wrote something on Microsoft Word, printed it, took a picture of it, and everyone went, "Oh my god, this conspiracy is real."
That the company had to respond to it. Like the company didn't respond to it, that did, but that's how big it got. It got to the point it got so big that the company had to.
Because I saw the thing originally, and my first inclination was, yeah, people just fake things. It's the internet. Yeah. Everything's fake.
Yeah,
like
deep fakes everywhere.
Yeah, so I would not have believed that TMZ would have even picked it up, but I guess TMZ probably called the company, and the company hung up on them. In the fact that they were like, yeah, this isn't true, and hung up, and they're like, we need an actual statement, please.
Yeah, and TMZ be like, dude, we'll make y'all look really bad. Trust me, you can look bad, or we could just print what you say. It's like, all right, it's just for what you say.
Terrible.
But hey, just throwing it out there. Hopefully, well, I don't know, hopefully, but if they break up on the 28th or break up anywhere in the month of September, it will be suspicious. So now they got to go. Now, even if they were planning on breaking up, they got to go even further. And by the way, I don't think they are breaking up because it was this is something Patrick Mahomes admitted. Apparently, he admitted on Tuesday. I think it was Travis Kelsey actually that admitted that Taylor Swift is drawing up plays she's working on.
Oh, I saw.
Did you see this?
I heard that from Travis Kelsey. Yes, that she was basically she's getting more interested in football, so she's caring, and so she was trying to discuss ways to have plays, and then so he was teaching her things about plays, and so then she was drawing up her own. Yes,
she's drawing up her own on a dry erase board, like a whiteboard, and apparently he admitted this on the Rich Eisen show that's how deep she's getting into the game. Good for her. Right? Yeah. I like it. You know what I mean? I teach my wife about football and stuff like that all the time. I don't go on the whiteboard, but just, a little breakdown about stuff like, oh, that's right. So I'm glad he's doing that. That's good. That means they're getting closer. Just, getting closer. I don't know how the NFL is going to handle the Taylor Swift mania this season and how they're going to do it.
I don't know. Are they not counting their money fast enough?
They're welcoming the Taylor Swift mania. Trust me, it's great. The Swifties, they actually will. That's how crazy they are. Not only do they believe it's a random document out there that has to do with their obsession, which is Taylor Swift, but they'll watch football just because Taylor Swift is in the building, in the stadium of the matchup they're watching. They will watch it just because they go get maybe eight camera views. They'll watch the game. The numbers prove that teenage girls will watch football if Taylor Swift is somewhere if she can be seen on the screen or she is somewhere at that venue, they'll watch it just for a peek at her. It's amazing. They've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. I don't know. Wow. I don't think I have anything that I'm that obsessed with. Like, I'm not watching a Taylor Swift video if she throws a football around in it. So
Yeah, no, no, they will. No,
No, I'm saying,
dude, they
but I
get.
love football. I'm
Yeah.
not going the other direction with it.
If she starts drawing up plays, man, there'll be Swifties out there drawing up plays, and that's what the NFL wants. They need young girls to start liking football,
Yeah.
because young girls grow up to be moms, and moms oftentimes determine when a young man will start playing football. It happened in my house. My mom was like, "You ain't playing till your 7th grade year. It's a dangerous sport," and I didn't play football to my 7th grade year because mama said it. And sometimes, and dad ain't. Most time, dad's gonna be like, "Nah, whatever mama says, I ain't arguing with her."
Ain't worth it.
So I ain't arguing with her. So that's why the NFL figured that out through their research, and like, all right, we got to get future moms, which are teenage girls, to love football. And how do we do it? And they came up with flag football. That's why a lot of young girls now, even in Austin, they're playing flag football, so they have a different relationship with the game, and they want this Swifty thing to work out.
Yeah.
They
Which,
would
by the
love
way,
for.
where do you stand on the flag football players saying NFL players couldn't do what they do?
Wow, I know I saw that. That I'm sure they're really good at what they do. But
I've
of course,
watched
like,
some highlights of the quarterback that said that, and I'm like, yeah, there's quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson would destroy you.
Destroy you guys. What are you talking about? And basically, what these guys have become skilled at, because I watched some of them stuff because I watched to see like how good are these guys. They become really skilled at being able to hide their flags, and being able to move and maneuver where it's tough for you to grab their flag. Like they're not really elite athletes. They're good athletes, but they're elite at being able to maneuver and contort their body where you can't grab their flag.
Yeah,
like do freaky
but you're
movements
still
that
like,
way, which is a skill.
Give me Patrick Mahomes and Xavier Worthy. Guard it. Guard it.
Yeah, because I won't need a flag when I just throw it deep and he runs right past you.
Yes.
So I don't even need to worry about the flag for this. I can just chuck it to him deep, and you can't run with him. No, I agree with you. I heard that. He's like, I'm basically better than Patrick Mahomes in flag football. We're like, okay, kid. All right. Yes. All right. Good for you. You went viral. Good for you. All right, we come back. That's off the record. Oh, I meant to get to the Bill Belichick side. Okay, real quick. Bill Belichick is on Instagram. It's done. It's done. He's on Instagram. You know that young hottie is now forced on Instagram.
I didn't think the young girls were on it. I thought we've moved past Instagram now too.
Oh, so he's old. He's
old head on there now.
Okay, yeah.
No,
I think he called it InstaFace too. Apparently,
there you go, Bill.
Perfect. I'm always he's so Pat McAfee. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I've joined InstaFace, and it's like, no,
join InstaFace.
Still got
no. I think it's connected to my Graham book.
Oh, I guess I sound old when I call it Twitter. Still, I call it Twitter, and it's not Twitter; it's X. So
but it was never called InstaFace. Not once.
It was never called InstaFace. InstaFace. Somewhere, I think that might be an app somewhere that actually is InstaFace. All right, we come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll hear from Ian Rappaport about the Dak Prescott contract negotiations. We'll also hear from Micah Parsons. I think he gives us a sneak peek about how Mike Zimmer plans on using him. Of course, we're previewing Texas versus Michigan. What did Mel Kiper have to say about what this game means for Quinn Ewers? I'll read you those comments that he had on ESPN, and we'll get into some other NFL news, notes, and nuggets talking about the start of the NFL season tonight, Ravens and Chiefs. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn and Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Mm. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday. The theme for the new theme Thursday, Michigan musicians, because Texas versus Michigan has inspired my man Patrick, my co-host and idealionaire, for the musically themed day of the week. Usually on Thursday, he picks a brand new theme, and he's getting hype about the Texas-Michigan matchup. So all the songs reflect a Michigan-born artist. And this is Eminem. Man, like I said, I think you could put Michigan up against a lot of states in terms of the best musicians born in that state. I think Michigan might got to be in the top 5. I can't imagine having too many more.
I mean, it's got to be up there.
States that have better music, because you talk about a Mount Rushmore top 5 rapper of all time in Eminem.
Yeah.
Right. Who else did you throw out there early on? Aretha Franklin.
Which Aretha wasn't born in Michigan. She was raised in Michigan. So,
okay.
So she's not born. She was raised. So I threw her in there.
Wonder,
I mean, because I don't think Eminem was born in Michigan either. Eminem was raised in Michigan as well, though.
Oh,
so both of them were not born there. They were raised there. So I threw them in as Michigan musicians, but not born.
Okay. All right. I got you.
But Stevie Wonder was born there. Bob Seger was born there. So there's some that are born there and raised there. Both Aretha Franklin and Eminem, because Eminem moved around like a bunch. And then I think it was his dad left him in Detroit.
Well, we know from all of his music,
right? Is that right? Is that
right? He's he's been very open about the hard life that he had as a youngster coming up.
So they're not all born there, but they're from there. And a lot of them claim it as where they're from. So.
All right. Yeah. No, good point there. I didn't think I was saying I was born, but you're right.
Yeah, because it's like, would you say Nelly's
Nelly's
a Texas musician?
No, but he's born in Austin.
Yes,
yeah,
that's
he claims
my point. St. Louis, yeah. So that's where I'm going.
I got you. All right, that's the theme for New Theme Thursday. Also, the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. Patrick comes up with that, and give the folks the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll of the day: how many rushing yards will Michigan have against Texas? Right now, you guys are still going in with the 100 150 at 61% of the vote, then 150 to 200 as 21%, and then we get 14% for 0 to 100 and a couple votes there for the 200 plus. That things will not go well.
No. Honestly, yeah, you're getting over 200, then there's a problem. 150 to 200, they can still get that, and Texas still, win the game.
Yeah,
but that would mean the Michigan run that Texas did not stonewall or stifle the Michigan running attack. Between 100 and 150 yards, depending on how many times they rushed the football, and a first down, how often that they were able to win on first down and give them second and medium, second and manageable, third and medium, third and manageable. That is really going to tell the story of that 100 to 150 rushing yards.
Exactly.
They can't control the game with just 100 to 150 rushing yards. They can control the game with 200 rushing yards. You can control the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, but if you say there's 165 rushing and like 78 passing, you're like, oh yeah, Texas still, because they just couldn't throw the ball at all.
And I still don't know how they're going to throw the ball. I don't mean to be, arrogant about that either, but man, they just look so inept throwing the football down the field versus Fresno State. 1 of 5 on passes 10 yards or more with 1 interception. And that one pass they completed past 10 yards was a 10-yard pass. It was a 10-yard reception by Loveland. They only threw it, I believe, past 10 yards 4 times. Did I count it? I got to go back. I'll look at the chart here because I went. There's a chart that I pulled up. Yeah, you look at how many times that they threw it past 10 yards. 4 times. They threw it past 10 yards.
Jeez.
They had a 9 route on the outside. They had a post route on the outside. They had that was kind of an over route by the slot receiver. Actually, I think that's the tight end. And then they had a slot fade that they targeted. That's it. Out of about 4 passes. So yeah, all the completions they had. And remember, we said Colston Loveland, their tight end, he had 80 receptions for 87 yards. Every other receiver had 8 receptions for 34 yards. It's just him in the passing game. Like, he's the focus of it. He had 4 first downs out of his 8 catches, so he's really, really productive. Half of his catches went for first downs. He did have a touchdown too, and he had that longest reception. He had a 20-yard reception. So he had basically the longest reception too of the evening. I think that was a catch and run, if I'm not mistaken. So I just don't know if you're Texas, force them to beat you with the pass. I stack the box. I might go 5 down linemen. I might go bare front. I might go Buddy Ryan 46 defense. Like, I'm not gonna let you run the football here. Why the hell would I ever get? I wouldn't even hide it. I would invite you to throw the football. I'm like, hey, I got one-on-ones out here. You want to take advantage of it? Take it. Because I don't think you can throw it past 10 yards. So take it. I would encourage. I want to see if they can do it. And if I'm Texas, I invite them to do it. I got one-on-ones out there because I'm probably gonna bracket Loveland if I'm bracketing anybody. The tight end is what I'm going to take away in the passing game. So if I'm going to stack the box and I'm going to try to take away anybody in the passing game, it'll be Loveland, and I'll probably just move Jahdae Barron. If he matched up on a safety, I'll probably just move Jahdae Barron around and tell Jahdae, hey, you match up on him. If his alignment is where a safety guards him, you shift over to safety and then put Gilbo at nickel. If he's aligned with a nickel defends him, and he just shift on over to nickel and then bump Gilbo over to safety, or Makuba, whichever one of your versatile DBs you want to put out there. That's what's the point of the versatility if you don't use it. This is when I would use it. I mean, that's an easy solution because they don't have very sophisticated passing concepts, y'all. It's not like you shouldn't get confused. It's not like a lot of switch releases and rub routes and stuff. They ain't doing a lot of that. They're running 12, 22, 21, 13 personnel. They threw the ball past 10 yards, guys, 4 times. All right, total. I guess you count 5 if you count the pass they threw at 10 yards. It was like at 10.3 yards. So I count 5 then passes. They threw past the yards. Guys, they're not throwing it downfield very far. They want to throw it between 0 to 9 yards. So you can cornerback, you can play off and flat foot read everything and just come up and jump every route they're going to throw and play it with discipline through the upfield shoulder so that if they run a double move, which I think they're going to do. I mean, that they have, if you're looking for a desperation and how they're going to get the football downfield, double moves. Since all of their completions were slants, hitches, and quick outs, what's the counter to that? The out and up, the hitch and go, the slant and go. And you will see that early just to see if Texas eyes are disciplined and to pair up with their play action. They only threw play action 3 times in a game versus Fresno State. So they'll have way more play action versus Texas to see if they can occupy eyes and, use some movement and some misdirection to try to get Texas to bite and use their speed and aggression against them. And the double moves are a great way to do it. So I think you'll see double moves. I think you'll see option. Well, I don't know when they're going to throw Alex Orji in there, but I'm pretty sure they're going to throw him in there for a wildcat package of sorts. And I would be expecting them to run option potentially. Why wouldn't they? I think it'll catch Texas off guard. But if you're Texas, man, football's a simple game, complicated by simple men. It's a simple game plan. Stuff the box, stop the run, and stop Colston Loveland. That's it. Those are your 2 priorities. You got step 1, you got step 2. Stop the run game, stop Colston Loveland, and have a plan for him, whether you're going to bracket him, whether you're going to put Jahdae Barron on him. Either way, have a plan for that. And to me, you let the chips fall where they may, because I don't know if Michigan has an effective counter if you're successful in those steps 1 and 2. I don't know if there's a counter.
I don't either. I mean, that's the one, their passing game is extremely untested and unproven. And you only have one real sample size of what it is this season, but that sample size is not good. So unless they were sandbagging and unless they completely look past Fresno State and they were prepared for Texas and they've got a game plan and all that, it's possible. Then everything you can look at says this is not going to be a team that offensively is going to be able to do a lot of things. So if you can stop the few things they can do, you should be good. And I'll say this, when you have to start listing off feet and how long the passes were, they're not that long.
That's what you have to do with
When you say,
serious.
no, it's 10 yards and a foot. That's not good.
That's technically that was past 10 yards. That was one of their 5 passes past 10 yards. It was like, no, you're right. It was like 10 yards and then like a foot or a foot and a half. And it was Colston Loveland. He's their vertical threat. So to me, like I said, if Texas can't do that, then first of all, we got to give Michigan credit. But if Texas can't do that, that means they weren't able to stop the run first. And the run opens up everything else. Play action, Colston Loveland, potential for double moves on the outside. But I think Texas is going to be able to take away the run, but at least force them into some second and long and some third and long, and that'll be the key. All right, there you go. So that's a little bit of that, the Michigan preview. We've been talking about it all day long. I think on the offensive side of the ball, since we're talking about what they got to do, I think offensively, you just blitz them with speed, man. I think that wide receiving core you have, it's going to be tough for anybody in the country to line up across the board and cover all of those weapons. And Texas didn't even reveal them all. They didn't really reveal Silas Bolden out there. DeAndre Moore didn't have a target. He started the game. He didn't have a target and he started the game. Your tight ends weren't used in a way where you maximize them. Like, all right, Nyblack, we heard so much about him as an athlete on the outside. I still think they got things they want to use with them. We didn't see a ton of the screen game. We know Sark loves sophisticated screens. We didn't see the deep ball. If I'm Texas, make it a track meet against Michigan, spread them out, empty formations, go 10 personnel with the red package every now and then, spread them out, find the matchup advantages because they got them. They play Big Ten football, and I know, they play against Ohio State, but there's a matchup advantage I guarantee you Texas can find that secondary. They don't have 5 Will Johnsons across there, and even Fresno State attacked Will Johnson and had success, by the way. He allowed 77 yards in coverage, 5 receptions on 8 targets. 4 of those went for first downs. It's the best cornerback in college football. And if that's the case, if Fresno State can make some plays against them, Texas can too. Now he did get a pick 6. So I wouldn't make a living out of testing Will Johnson, but it is something I think Texas doesn't have to shy away from. Don't have to build a game plan to ignore his side of the field or to, divert their passing game away from him. No, I think they can go at him too. And I think Texas will try to go at him a few times. So the game plan is relatively simple, offense and defense. I don't think you're going to be able to run the ball against them, and you should anticipate that if you're Sark, that you won't be able to run the ball consistently. You'll be able to pop a couple here and there. Of course you will. But will you be able to just impose your will in that defensive front? No. But they're not worried about your run game because your run game isn't a potent running attack. Your passing game is potent and prolific. And I guarantee you, if Michigan's afraid of anything or stressed out about anything, it's how to defend that Texas passing game. And so you lead with what your opponents fear. Lead with what they fear. And they fear the Texas passing game. They don't fear your running game. So if Texas goes up in there, starts handing out the football, and you don't see that early down pass rate I talk about of 55 to 60%, something's going on. That ain't right. That's, that remind me, remember that first Alamo Bowl that Texas played against Washington? And they didn't have Bijan, they didn't have Rojo, and they had Keelan Robinson back then. I was like, I know Sark is not going to just run the same plays he would run with Bijan and Rojo. With Keelan, that's exactly what he did.
Yeah,
just hand out the ball, and it was like
disappointing game.
Yeah, it was like
Still.
that's not. Yeah, did not do it. You really did. You did that. No, don't do that. And so we've seen him evolve and grow since then.
Yeah,
don't go up to Michigan doing that. You don't have C.J. Baxter. You don't have a potent, dominant running attack. Even we saw that in that game versus Colorado State. What you have is a prolific, potent passing attack. Lead with it.
Yeah. How early in the script does Sark put a deep ball? Taking a shot.
That's a great question. Because I don't think you have to. I think you can let that come naturally. If you see it, if you're because you're troubleshooting a little bit with that script, and you see the opportunity with a one-on-one, they're giving you that look. consistently with, whatever formation you're presenting, all right, he'll take it. He'll take it. But if they're not, man, wear him out with the screen game, wear him out with the RPO, wear him out with the quick game. I mean, Quinn is brilliant in the short to intermediate range. So I would take the short to intermediate. It'll be there. There'll be some short to intermediate there. The windows will be smaller now.
Yeah.
Because it's Michigan. So you got to be a little bit more tighter with your mechanics, but they'll be there, and Sark can scheme it up. The question will be, kind of worries me is like, the deflected passes. Like, it's little things that could just get you a penalty here or there.
Yep.
The deflected passes in the Washington game.
I mean, we saw
like
against
that.
Colorado State what killed the first drive was a penalty.
Yep.
It pushed them back,
Stuff
and then
like
they weren't
that.
able. And then it became second long, third long, and you're just kind of out of the drive all of a sudden. But penalties will kill you. You don't want to have those. But I'm just curious we know he didn't show the deep pass, and I think part of that was we don't want to show it. We don't need to, and we don't want to before Michigan because we don't want to show you all the things we've got planned up. But we also know we think we can outrun you because that's not what you do.
Yeah, and you gotta force them to have to defend it.
Yes.
To respect it at one point. So you can't wait too late in the game because otherwise they just gonna be bearing down on you with no respect for the verticality and just inching closer and closer to the line of scrimmage and cheating and using all these games and running all these exotic blitzes that Don Wink Martindale likes to throw out there. You need them to fear the possibility of giving up that deep ball and that easy, completion, that easy chunk yardage play. So it won't be too late in the game. I think maybe by the third or fourth drive, I expect to see a vertical shot of some kind, or at least a pass more than 20 yards down the field. Maybe more of those deep over routes.
Yeah, exactly.
Rainbow. It'll be something. Maybe that boomerang route. Maybe that Matthew Golden called is kind of a flood concept. He called it a play action flood thumb. It's that route he goes inside, like he's going to run an over route, coming back out to the sideline. It's like a 38-yard completion versus Colorado State. You'll see, I think, something like that. You'll see them, I think, because they want to soften up this Michigan defense and force those safeties to back a little bit. That'll open up the running game, open up the screen game. To do that, you got to threaten Michigan. And Fresno State was able to judge it. There's some double moves, and Fresno State got behind some Michigan DBs. They will give you one-on-ones. Why wouldn't you? Got the best corner in college football. There will be chance for one-on-ones. Wink Martindale played a good deal of zero coverage when he was with the Giants. And when they give you those opportunities, Texas got to hit them on them. All right. I know you just basically broke down the Michigan game, Texas-Michigan matchup. So let's hit the Horn headlines. Let's get updated, educated, and informed with the Horn headlines. And then we'll come back and we'll talk Cowboys on the other side. We'll get into Raj Rand. We'll talk Cowboys. We'll hear from Micah Parsons, and we'll get into a little Texans conversation too. But first, let's hit my man Patrick Davis up with the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros were never able to get out of the gates against the Reds last night, allowing 9 runs in the first inning and losing 12-5. The Astros will try to forget about the bad loss as they finish the series today, sending Hunter Brown to the mound. The Rangers won their series with the Yankees with a 10-6 win yesterday. Wyatt Langford had another big night with 3 hits, 3 runs, and 2 RBIs, while also making an above-the-wall catch, robbing a home run to end the game in the 9th. Nathan Eovaldi pitched 7 innings, allowing 2 runs and striking out 6 in the game, picking up his 11th win of the season. The Rangers now begin a 4-game series with the Angels, with Cody Bradford getting the start tonight. And in the NFL, the Ravens and Chiefs kick off the NFL season tonight on NBC. The rematch of the AFC title game from last season brings the debut of Derrick Henry on the Ravens and Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs, as the two teams battle for early control of the AFC. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. All right, we'll get to the break here. We'll come back, get into Raj Rant. That's when we'll dive into this Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper had a comment about Quinn Ewers and what's at stake for him in this game. We'll talk about that. Also, we'll hear from Micah Parsons, who I think gives us a little sneak peek as to how Mike Zimmer may deploy him in that new defense with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk about that Dak Prescott contract situation, because getting closer and closer to the start of the season for the Cowboys. Of course, we start the official kickoff of the NFL season tonight, but Cowboys will be kicking off on Sunday, and it looks like they're going to kick off the season right now without a new contract extension done for Dak Prescott. What does that mean? We'll come back and discuss it. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I got a couple of things I want to get to here. The first is the Mel Kiper comment about Quinn Ewers. He was on Get Up, I believe it was on ESPN, and he was talking about his top quarterbacks on his board. He said Shadur Sanders and Carson Beck are his top two quarterbacks, and he said Quinn was his third, but he did leave room open, or at least a possibility open that Quinn could leapfrog both of those guys. End up at QB1 at the end of the year. Here is what he said. He said, "Quote." About the Texas Michigan matchup. It's a great defense. The Wolverines, high noon kickoff at the Big House. What's better than that? You've got three players. You got Will Johnson, a lockdown corner, could be a top 5 pick for Michigan. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, that interior pressure that bothers quarterbacks like no other. Those two kids, Grant and Mason Graham, will be top 10 picks potentially. And then you've got Quinn Ewers. Consistency. A couple of years ago, he's at 58% completion percentage. Last year, it goes up to 69%, but in the year, against Rice, he missed a couple of throws. He's great against Alabama and Tuscaloosa, leads them to an upset with 3 touchdowns and 250 yards. The next week against Wyoming, he's at 52%. After that, he's at 65% or higher in every regular season game. This is Quinn Ewers' year to maybe reestablish himself as QB1 by the time we get to April. So that's kind of the more important part, that their draft analyst Mel Kiper is saying, hey, but he still has a chance to leapfrog all those guys and be QB1. And if you're QB1, well, that means you got a chance to be number 1 overall, right? Number 1 overall, and I think that's the goal for a guy like Quinn Ewers. And yeah, there's been talk. I've heard, coaches. I've heard some scouts bring up the fact that against Alabama, Quinn had look at Pro Football Focus grades, 290 plus grades, passing grades against Alabama. He was at a 50 something versus Wyoming. So they do want to see consistency in his performance. But I think that's what you'll get this year. Ultimately, you want to see him evolve as a passer. I think we saw a little bit of that versus Colorado State, manipulating defenders with eyes, even no-look passes being that too. The most obvious example, but manipulating defenders with your eyes and with your feet and with your body language, right? DBs are reading body language. You know what it tells me when a quarterback's shoulder pads, when the front of his shoulder pads are down? Well, probably that ball's going to be thrown on a rope. It's going to be thrown on a line. See the quarterback's shoulders go up. Oh, a DB tells me, oh man, it's going to be some air under that throw, right? Just putting some air on it. It's going to be a throw that's over the top. Those are all little things that, and you can manipulate defenders just based on it, because the guys are literally reading your eyes and reading that body language. And if you're looking one way and then you maneuver those shoulders or manipulate those shoulders a little bit, you'd be surprised how at a safety you can just get him to stop his feet, and I come right back over the top of boom. And that's really high level quarterbacks. They're thinking 3-4 steps ahead. They're like, all right, I got to move that. I got a 6 route coming right there where that linebacker is. I need to move him. All right. Oh, I got this. I know how to move him. All right. And then as soon as the ball snap, I move him with my eyes. All right. I can look at him and then look right in a certain location. I know that linebacker will take a step or two there, which will clear up that glance route or that route behind him, and boom, you throw it. And you see it all the time at the NFL level. And some linebackers, they're smart enough where they're playing the chess match too. And they're like, yeah, I'm a fake like I'm going over here and throwing out, and I'm coming back. And trust me, there's a lot going on. I wasn't good enough. That's why I only lasted a couple of years, right? In the league. I wasn't that high level, but that's the level they're looking for. They want him to be 1-1, the number 1 quarterback taken overall, and they want him to be the face of their franchise. Though that's the evolution they're going to be looking for. And as I pointed out, they want the capability. Put the cape on, young man. Put the cape on. Every quarterback that's drafted number 1 overall, we all had a chance we were all witnesses to their capability, to them becoming Superman in a moment. All right. And going, well, you don't coach that. Ain't nobody teaching that. He just got that it quality. He got it. He oozes it. We saw it from Caleb Williams. Hell, Longhorn fans saw it up close and personal when he was just a freshman. He's got it. Tons of it. He's even showing it at the NFL level in the preseason. Same thing with Joe Burrow. Right. We saw it once again. Hate to say it, up close and personal. Longhorn fans saw that too. 3rd and 17. He's got it. Joe Cool, whatever it may be. If you're going to be drafted number 1 overall, you got to have that it quality, that je ne sais quoi that all the scouts and coaches understand. We can't teach that. I can't teach that. I can't coach that. When the play breaks down, even Sarkis is talking more about it, right? He's talking about don't be robotic. Don't be so mechanical out there. The play breaks down, go play. Use your athletic instincts. I always tell the story about Bill Walsh and Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh asking Bill Walsh, what do you look for in a quarterback? And Bill Walsh said, look for athletic instincts. All right. A spontaneous, instinctive response to natural situations that occur 10 to 15% of the time in the game that make the difference in the game. And as my man Shano says, I need you to be coachable, but don't be a robot. I can't plan for everything. I can't make the right call every time. Sometimes they're going to have a great defense called. Sometimes their player's going to make a great play. I'm going to have the wrong offensive play called, wrong formation. I need you to go out there and keep us from a negative play, and I need you to go out there and make a play. Sometimes make something out of nothing. Be a ball player. Don't be a robot. Even Sark is saying that he's encouraging that as that element with the young Arch Manning. And that's I think his first touchdown was a bigger step than we even realized, because that's not what Arch wants to do. Sark is saying Arch doesn't naturally do that. He wants to be robotical and mechanical and, hey, A, B, C, D. Coach, teach me what the steps are, and I'll go through the steps properly and execute them efficiently. And Sark is saying, yeah, but it doesn't always work that way. At least 20 to 30% of the time, you're going to be off script. You're going to be off schedule. It ain't going to go as planned. The route doesn't go. It doesn't arrive at the depth or the timing that you thought. Somebody misses a block. The defender makes a hell of a play. About 30% of the time, never goes as planned. And what happens to you as a player in that moment? Your athletic instincts take over, and do you go out there and you make something out of nothing, or you ever to make a positive out of that circumstance, or is it a negative? And that's Quinn in this game, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Like I said, everybody, all the scouts want to know, how does Quinn handle pressure? Literally and figuratively. Pressure. Biggest game of the year, biggest stage, defending champion in the big house. He's been there before. And as Patrick mentioned, in the visitors' locker room for Ohio State. But how does he handle the pressure? Don Week Martindale, if you go look at his blitz rates over the years, I mean, everybody knows it. 3rd, 1st, 6th, 1st, 2nd. Last 6 years. Those are his blitz rates. He's coming. He's going to create pressure. Quinn has not dealt with pressure consistently well. Right? You go look at his pressure to sack rate, 13% in 2022, but 25% in 2023. Pro Football Focus has his allowed pressure percentage 14% in 2022, 22% in 2023. Their pressure to sack numbers are around the same. Statso War has his sack to pressure rate, sack versus pressure rate, upwards of 30%. Same thing with Sports Info Solutions. In the game versus Colorado State, he was awesome. He was amazing. They only pressured him twice. His 2 worst plays of the game: the sack and the interception. I'm not being nitpicky, but let's extrapolate. And if you're done week Monday, you go, excellent. So I need 15 of them plays where he's under pressure. If he's got an interception and a sack in the 2 plays where Colorado State was able to apply pressure, what if I get 15? And all I need is him to make a bad decision, or to make a ill-advised throw, or for us to get a negative play on 5 of those, a third of them. And they can be game-changing plays, game changers. Strip sack, fumble recovery, interception, return for game changers. And that's what Wink Martindale's going to try to do. I'll tell you right now, because he's watched the film, and on the film it tells him that the young man's inconsistent when he handles pressure. The scouts up there, they know they got the same numbers I do, and they know he's going up against an NFL defense coordinator, and they got the NFL players on the defensive front and in the secondary to execute these high-level pressure schemes. How does Quinn handle it? I can't wait. Those 15 plays will probably determine the game. If he doesn't handle them well, his draft stock is probably going to drop a little bit, and he will not leapfrog Shadur and Carson Beck to be the number 1 quarterback overall. If he handles that pressure well on that big stage, makes big plays, keeps his team out of negative plays, and is able to perform at a high level under duress, I think he'll leapfrog maybe a guy or two. They'll start regularly having a conversation about him as also QB1. And that they're not sure which one of those three guys it's going to be. Because right now it's pretty clear. Everybody's saying Shadur and Carson Beck. Those are your two top quarterbacks. And Quinn is clearly entrenched at number 3. You want to change that conversation? If you don't like what people are saying, change the conversation. Quinn, it's time to change the conversation to get you back in the conversation to be QB1 because he's got all the talent. We know that. It's been about, like I said, how he has handled the pressure, figuratively and literally. I think this is the game he proves it. If he doesn't, it's going to be trouble. Potentially. Could be trouble. Because we know it's going to be there. There's no doubt Wink Martindale is going to bring it. And I think Quinn's up to it. And this is on Sark too, right? Schematically. Sark knows he's going to bring it. Sark knows that. Sark knows all too well he's going to bring that kind of pressure. So what do you do schematically, strategically, to give your guy an advantage? Well, ball's out quick. That's number one. Game against Colorado State, ball was out an average of 2.17 seconds was his average time to throw. You can't get there in that time. Move in the pocket, the half boot, half roll, half waggle, or just getting Quinn on the move. Quinn actually is a lot better throwing the football on the move than people give him credit for. So move in the pocket. Fresno State did a lot of that. That's not a bad idea. Going with the 6-0 line package every now and then. And not necessarily to be able to give you more girth and mass to run the football, but more to give you insulation and pass protection. So that you can get some more of the vertical routes down the field to give you another added offensive lineman. So those are a couple of things that I think Sark could do on his own. But ultimately, like I say, it's going to come down to Quinn. He's going to have to deal with pressure. That's just what Wink Martindale is going to present, and how he handles it. That'll be potentially one of the biggest keys and factors in the game for Texas and whether they're going to win or not. So, all right, let's get to the Micah Parsons sound. I promise you this. Let's get to Micah's what may be a sneak peek, a little preview, if you will, a little appetizer for Cowboys fans. He was talking initially about some of the new acquisitions the Cowboys have made on the defensive line, but then started to go into some detail about Zimmer's vision for how to deploy the multiplicity in the skill set of Micah Parsons. Here's what Micah had to say.
I know y'all look at that PFF stuff, but y'all gonna see I'm moving around a lot. Like, I don't think there is a side. I think each, I got my own personnels and stuff. It's gonna be exciting. I'm gonna say that, and I think I'll probably play every single person. And I think this is the first year where I could be in the 2-eye. I could be in the 3. I could be in the 4. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, I could be a linebacker, be in the slot. I could almost be the safety if you look at it that way.
How many different positions you think you'll play?
I don't know. He got the packaging, but, at the same time, it's all about calling a good game. If we're giving up a lot on first down, it's going to be hard to get in those packages. If we're giving up and, they're winning in the marks of the field sticks, all that stuff matters. But if we do what we do, I think I could play a lot of different positions.
All right, so maybe Zimmer's going to move him around a little more than we thought. I thought he'd be even more stationary under Zimmer because Zimmer doesn't have the hybrid philosophy that a Dan Quinn does. So maybe he is, maybe he's exaggerating his role, or maybe it's a sneak peek. Maybe Zimmer's going to be a little bit more flexible than we thought. I was surprised to hear him say he could potentially be moving around that much.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, he's got to be exaggerating. He's not playing safety at all this season.
No, I know.
He's exaggerating a little. So
yes, exactly. But I assume that he'd move around even less.
I did too, and I still don't think he's going to move around a ton. I think you could see him move out to linebacker some, but that's really it. Is outside linebacker, maybe a little bit, and maybe he drops back in a couple more plays. But it feels like I don't think Micah's going to be happy if he is continually having to drop back and get bored trying to play smart football as opposed to just doing fun football and rushing the quarterback.
Fun football as opposed to smart football. Yeah.
I mean, we know, and that's, it's not a shot at, there's a lot of players like that. We've talked about it with the nickel position and moving up and to safety you have to be really smart. You have to be very, very conscious of everything that's happening, but it's also kind of boring because the plays happen in front of you a lot.
Yeah. You're just running up to a pile every time.
Yeah. And so there's a certain part of it, or you're chasing a guy the ball doesn't go to. And
that's true.
And so there's pieces in it where I get, where you want to be that pass rusher. I'm just not sure if Micah for the whole season is going to be okay with, well, we got him on, it's now 3rd and long, so they can use me in a different position and I'm not pass rushing, or we got a good stop and on 2nd down, I think I can get to him. No, actually, Micah, what we need you to do is step back here and make sure they don't pick up the yardage on the. I just feel like there will be plays where he does it, but I think it's going to be such a small margin of just kind of showing what he can do without really doing it. And I think they'll show him in those positions to blitz and push him out to show, well, I'm a linebacker, and then still rush the quarterback.
That's kind of what I believe too. I think they'll do it just so that he could spin down or play a game or use a twist or a stunt so he can blitz. So I think, they are moving around, but it's only to make him maximize his ability as a pass rusher more than anything. And if they're going to make him the highest paid, because he will be highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, which I think he will be whenever they do his contract, he better be pass rushing.
He better be getting sacks too. Better be getting home.
Better be getting sacks. Trust me, Jerry Jones will have something to say about that, I guarantee. All right, we'll get to the break here. We come back. We got Who Said That? That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice, hopefully you can recall and identify who said that. We'll have that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. New theme Thursday. That's when Patrick, my co-host, the Idillionaire, comes up with a brand new creative theme. And today, the theme is Michigan musicians, inspired by the Texas-Michigan matchup on the field this weekend. So we appreciate him coming up with all the musically themed days of the week. He also comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. That's already posted at the X on our X account at the Horn ATX. And right now, 61% of you believe that Michigan will run for between 100 and 150 yards. The topic is how many rushing yards will Michigan have against Texas? And 61% of you said between 100 and 150 yards. Then 22% of you saying Texas will allow between 150 and 200 rushing yards to the Michigan Wolverines. So go check that out at the Horn ATX. Also, just real quick before we get into who said that, Clarence Hill of now at all Dallas, all DLLS.com. He just published a piece a couple hours ago, and in it he says the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott are closer. The deal is closer than you think. From the report, per a source with direct knowledge of the negotiations, progress has been made during talks with Prescott and the Cowboys, and a deal is closer than it has been. What's also true, per the source, is the length of the deal is not a sticking point in negotiations, as has been reported. They are on the same page in terms of length. So the length thing no longer a big issue, and now they're closer than they ever been. So there you go. That's Clarence Hill of the of all Dallas, all DLL. So maybe it will get done before the season starts. They've got a couple of days. Get it done. All right. We'll be talking about it no matter which way it ends up unfolding. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. All right. Let's get to who said that. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues, based on the familiarity of the voice, you have to identify who said that.
I said Jamarcus Russell threw it better than anybody. We were on the 20 throwing like routes versus air. Mm-hmm. You know, you think you're pretty safe with like a 90-yard window to the goalpost, and he like threw a post route and almost ran a kid into the goalpost. But Dad's like, "You gotta back up." I'm like, "We're on the 20, Dad. I didn't know
that is a
he was gonna throw
couldn't he throw it like 60 to 80 from his knees?
Oh yeah,
it was crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that's Peyton Manning talking about the Manning passing academy with Jamarcus Russell, apparently basically saying he's had one of the strongest arms that he's ever seen come through the Manning passing academy.
Yeah, and one of the best arms he ever had. And then it's just that because the story that always gets out is that he had the coach, they couldn't get him to care about anything, and they brought him a DVD. They said, "Here's some different plays that we want to try out. Watch this video and let me know which plays you want to try and which plays you want to put in the playbook." And he gave him the video, and he came back the next day, and he goes, "Do you watch the video?" He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Which plays?" And he goes, "I'm good with all of them." And then the guy looks at someone else and goes, "There's nothing on it. It's a blank DVD."
Yeah, I didn't even look at it.
Didn't even put it in.
It's a damn shame. Damn shame. And that story got even more tragic too.
Yeah,
Jamarcus Russell story, like it got more and more tragic. We won't get into it, but yeah, a lot of wasted talent there from Jamarcus Russell.
Yep.
Man, that's crazy. All right, good stuff there, Patrick. Appreciate you as always. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate all of you guys for your support. Remember, the revolution will not be televised, but we'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. And tomorrow we'll be back, same time, same channel. Until then, hook 'em and peace.